Top five.
Yeah, girl, you ready to do this? You ready to count this thing down? We're doing the top five, her. Yeah, let's set it off with 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ranked Top 5, list of stuff that don't matter. I'm your host, Tuong La, reporting to you from Tuong's school of gifted and ungifted, middle-aged people. And we're here today to talk about a very exciting topic that I have a guest who has been just clamoring to do this podcast for a very long time. At least one person has been asking me this for probably years. I'm going to go ahead and say years. And I was like, nah, nobody cares about this group of people in comics right now. How wrong I was. And here we are about to talk about that. But before I do, I need to talk about, he's top of the class, the leader of the group, has a funky mutation. It's Angus MacDonald, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Yay.
I wasn't sure for a second. I was like, oh, wait, this doesn't sound like...
No, I mean, it can be.
No, I feel like... because off mic, we were just talking... I was a straight A student most recently this time.
That's kind of what I was
And I was kind of in a leadership role. You're right. You nailed it.
And the funky mutation is going back to your hair. Obviously,
exactly.
You have to keep talking about your hair.
I have the superhuman ability to lengthen my hair every couple of weeks or so. It gets longer and
He's
longer.
a gene freak. Get him.
Can't we live in peace? Just because I'm better than you doesn't mean...
Angus, happy to have you on the show. Happy to have you here.
Yes. Sentinel crashes in.
Oh my gosh.
Omega level threat detected.
Let's not go that far.
That's fair.
Angus, happy to have you here talking about this mysterious topic. Obviously, we haven't introduced yet, but before we do, I'd love for you to...
yeah, you're right, we haven't.
I'd love for you to introduce the next student, if you will.
Yeah, of course. I would say if I'm the top student, this guy is just shy. He's the one nipping at my heels. He's also got a pretty radical mutation. His name is Taylor Fleming.
Good day. Welcome to the podcast. I hope you survived the experience. That's an old X-Men arcade game reference. We're going deep.
Damn it. You said the words. Hey, people knew.
No, just
people
bleep
knew.
it. That'd be really funny if you bleeped it
before
we...
I totally won't. Too lazy. Taylor, welcome to the show. Welcome to your show, really. I mean, it's really... episode that you have been bugging me, clamoring for since the podcast really started, I would say, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, something of an X-Men fan, so I just have like scheduled messages that launch to Tuong every 2 hours, be like, top 5 blanks. I'm being spoilery, I'm being coy. I can't wait. I feel like every Pod Cavern episode I've done has just been training for this. I'm so excited. I'm giddy as all hell.
It's so interesting to me because Taylor, he lives on the West Coast, so he's a few hours behind us. Technically maybe should still be working, I don't know, but anyways, when I brought him the guys are ready maybe at this time or this time, he was like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna show up to it no matter what time it is. That's how excited he is for this episode.
I would move mountains to do this.
Wow. That's a great mutant power. But before we get into it, it's okay. Before we get into it,
it's fine.
Can you introduce the last student of the class?
Absolutely. Our newest mutant joining the crew today, we've got Rich Hilborn.
Hey, Hey!
I'm glad you did that, because if I were to put it into this episode, I'm sure Disney would come after me.
If you just do it with meow meow meows or like meow meows, they can't get you.
Oh, that's really smart.
That's Rich's mutant ability.
To avoid copyright?
To avoid copyright, because I'm not musically talented.
There's a Run the Jewels album where they re-recorded their entire album with just cat sounds.
Yeah.
LP like redid it. Meow the Jewels. Beatles.
Yeah,
That's what it made me
it's
think
great.
of.
That's
It's
incredible.
great. You know, you want to just do the Beatles. You just want to go like, like meow 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 meow. Like
I feel like we'd have to call you copycat, but that might actually be a mutant.
They might be one.
Name.
Let's go ahead, reintroduce the topic here. We're talking about top 5 X-Men characters. We will get into the ground rules in a little bit, but I do want to have a little bit of a celebration. Take a moment to celebrate X-Men a little bit, because obviously they've been around for a very, very long time. Specifically right now, in this point in time, they have had a big resurgence in the revived animated continuation? That's not a word. Continuation of the old X-Men cartoons, X-Men 97. And I just thought it would be X-Men are topical no matter what, because they are, a metaphor for racism, for homophobia, for all these
Yeah, they just represent any like oppressed group. And that's why they're like,
It's
unfortunately,
the
they'll
mutants.
always be relevant.
a mutant metaphor.
That's right. Except they get really cool powers, and I remain just an Asian man, but that's all I get.
I mean, cool. Some of them do. Some of them just get 2 faces.
That's true, or 3 faces sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyways, X-Men, let's talk about it. And I actually want to talk about just to this group, because this was hard for me to pick a group of 3, because I have a lot of friends who like X-Men, but I would say this group like it more, just a little bit more than other people. There's levels. I'm sure I could have invited other people and they would have done just fine, but I want to talk to this group. Angus, Rich, Taylor, tell me about your X-Men love a little bit.
I was a big fan of the cartoon as a kid, obviously. Played the video games, saw the movies, even the bad ones. I will say I don't think I finished. I started one on a plane, one of the more recent ones, like Dark Phoenix or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Started on a plane and did not finish it. And I didn't like put a different movie on. I just shut it off and sat there in silence for like 40 minutes and then decided to do something else. But no, I love the X-Men. Like, if I had to pick like a singular favorite comic book character, it'd be someone like Spider-Man. But X-Men is like the coolest team.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it. It's got so many different strengths, but yeah, I was a big fan. I might not be the only one here. Definitely dressed up as an X-Men character for Halloween as a kid, and I don't want to burn who it is yet. When they come up, because I think they'll get nominated by somebody. When they come up, I'll dish out that maybe if anyone else has dressed up as an as a mutant before. But yeah, no, big fan.
Yeah, awesome.
Love them to death.
Rich, what about you?
Yeah, I love the X-Men also. Like, I also watched the cartoon when it was originally coming out. One of the first comic books I ever read was X-Man #1, which is 1995, which, not the X-Men, X-Man, a'ka, we're not going to talk too much about X-Man. Yeah, I love the X-Men. It's so much fun as a comic book nerd. It's just as for the superhero stuff, but also kind of in almost the same way that you'd watch a soap opera or wrestling or something like that. It's the storylines are so complete and interesting that you don't really get in a lot of other comic books. With the Avengers, it's more they're friends or they're people who work together. Whereas these people are these are family and people I went to high school with combined together. I just love them. They're great.
That's great. Taylor, how about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything Rich just said as well. It's so good. There's action set pieces and stuff, but just the soap opera of it all. It's this kind of incestuous family. Everyone is just fucking each other. It's so good. It's so much more there's just, I don't know, a lot of comics, they don't necessarily get into all of that stuff, but it's so good. And yeah, same as these guys, grew up watching the cartoon, playing the games. I watched all the cartoons, like X-Men Evolution when we were around 10 or so. That shit hit because we were closer to that age. Even Wolverine and the X-Men, that one season that it came out, that show was so good, and then it just disappeared. Everything, the movies, speaking of dressing up, when X-Men The Last Stand, horrible movie, came out. I think we were in high school. We wore our rugby jerseys, which were blue, and yellow electric tape, and we just put it on to the X's, cool. And we just went around, we're X-Men!
And then somber leaving that theater at the end of the day.
Yeah, you leave and you're like, X-Men.
We all just walked out shirtless doing the Charlie Brown.
Sad man.
Yeah. And the comics, I mean, they're my favorite group. They're my favorite just everything. They're untouchable.
Also, for any listeners out there who are like, oh man, I really am interested now in reading the comic books, check out House of X, Power of X. It's the new, it's like the mini, like soft reboot, and it's just like, it's great.
It's a good starting spot. Yeah.
It's super confusing at first, but if you hang in there, not super, like I didn't
It's
find
dense.
it. So
It's
not to sound like exactly, not to sound like a total like, oh, I'm so good. I read like a lot of fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. So like I'm reading through it and I was like, wow, that's pretty confusing. I imagine they'll explain it later, but I do have people in my life who, when they get to something or they're reading something, I try to get them on a book or something like that, and they're like, oh, I didn't understand what was going on, so I just gave up on it. It's like those like 6 issues or 12 issues, I guess. If you read through them, I promise it will make sense. There'll be a really satisfying click at some point, and you'll be like, oh, I get it all now.
Yeah.
It's even to the point with the titles. It's like you get to like 4 issues in, and then you're like, oh, it's House of X, Powers of 10.
Yeah.
Clever little wordplay there. Right? Because
Yeah.
it's the 10 Lives of Moira.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool.
I just read that and I didn't put that together. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for myself, very similar to everyone in this group here, but I grew up playing the video games, watching the shows. I watched basically most of the movies, even though there are probably as much bad movies as there are good movies of X-Men. Maybe
Probably more
bad movies.
Yeah, no,
I
I'd say
didn't
there's,
watch
like,
Apocalypse
2 really-
or
3
Dark
really good
Phoenix or New Mutants. I haven't seen any of those because
I forgot about New Mutants.
I haven't seen Dark Phoenix or New Mutants.
yeah, and
no.
I don't want to.
No, God, no.
But for this episode, I'll start tying it back in here and we will start talking about X-Men, I swear. But for this episode, I think like I put out the feelers like last week, a week today. I'm pretty sure I was like, hey, who wants to rank X-Men? And you all said yes. And I'm like, great. Okay, this day works.
Easy.
Oh, shit. I'm going to put on my like ultra ranking cap. This is what I do for like the video games episodes, the movie episodes. It's where I just make this my singular obsession until we start ranking stuff. So I've been on a nonstop X-Men tear in the last 7 days. As much X-Men that I could possibly absorb in my free time, I'm doing it. And I read just an ungodly amount of comics. I resubscribed to Marvel Unlimited. I did not get to nearly where I wanted to be, but I still like, I don't even know, like 100 issues? I don't know. Like it's something ridiculous that I read. And I watched 2 movies. Like,
oh, wow.
Like last night and today, I watched 2 movies. I'm just like, I'm getting as much X-Men as possible. And then I realized by the end of it, I'm like, my favorite characters are still my favorite characters.
I slowed down. I started having a similar thing. I probably read 30 to 50 comics, like issues in the last couple days. And at a certain point, it was more just like, yes, okay. My gut instinct was right.
Yes.
With maybe 1 or 2. 1 or 2 kind of shifting in my like, anyway.
It was a good
Yeah,
excuse
totally.
to absorb all that information. And if
Absolutely.
someone throws
And I'm back
someone random at me, I'm like, I know who that is. You know, that's
You
where
now
I'm-
know who Glob Herman is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You read New X-Men, right?
Yeah, I did. So for today's episode, getting to the ground rules, if you don't know X-Men, we will explain their mutant powers. I don't know if we need to spoil per se any particular comic line or run, but we might get into it. We'll give warnings beforehand if we end up doing that. Do recommend that you read it. Marvel Unlimited, going back to it, it's been years now since I've had it. So much fucking better than it was a few years ago. Like way better.
I subscribed to it probably 15 years ago and was shocked. I wanted to read some Hulk comics. I think World War Hulk was like a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like reading it and I'm like, I got to get Marvel Unlimited. I go into it and it's like, okay, cool. Start reading this. We have issues 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9. And I'm like, how are you missing? Like, that's you guys. You guys are
You guys
Marvel.
are the ones.
How are you guys missing issues?
Yeah.
But this was the UI is still terrible, but some of the features like the reading guides can kind of help with give you
Much
some
easier.
recommendations of where to go.
It is tough
it's
when
gotten a
you're
lot
like
better.
looking for like if you just type in X-Men and there's like different runs of Uncanny X-Men and like they're all called like the same thing and you're like, okay, but this is the one from 2001 to this time, and that's what you got to look for. Ground rules for today's episode. We kind of talked about it outside of this chat, but I want to really get into it right now because we could run into some friction. I don't know if we will, but we could. But we're talking about X-Men characters, but we are talking about mutants was the main thing.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to get across, was that we're talking about the mutants in the X-Men world, but also I wanted to include the ones that are like X-Men adjacent to like the villains I wanted to include in this.
I will say, if we just wanted to go with the technicality of they've been on most of the villains have been X-Men at some point. So like, I think we're going to be okay. But yes, it's a good thing to point out in case anyone's like, I nominate Bolivar Trask.
Yes, damn it, you're talking.
I love him.
Yeah, but it takes away like characters like the Sentinels. Rich, you brought up how Juggernaut is not a mutant, so he would
not a mutant.
You know what I mean? So those characters would not count. Is there any other ground rules we want to go through?
I was going to nominate Stevie Hunter, Kitty's dance instructor from the 80s for like 5 years.
Wow, deep
so
cut.
she's no good.
I don't think so sorry.
No.
God, that's a deep cut.
I will say that,
it's going to be Claremont all day, baby. Just warning you.
Good. So one thing I wanted to cover. So like there was an episode we did like a really long time ago, Tuong, where it was like, I feel like it was like movie quotes or something like that.
Sure,
and
iconic movie lines or something.
Yeah, and it devolved from, and that's fine, it was a fun episode, but it devolved from being like, I like this quote the best, to this quote is said the most times. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I feel like with this list, we're not trying to find the 5 most powerful mutants.
Definitely not.
Oh,
just our favorites.
No.
We're picking our 5. This is if you want the curated taste of Ranked the podcast, these are our 5 favorite mutants. Is that a fair way of putting it forward?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I think that like within that we're talking about like their powers and what they've done in comics and their influence and all that stuff, why we like them.
Yeah,
that's what we're ranking them on. But yeah, not the most powerful, because that's just ridiculous. That's stupid.
Because there's almost
it's unfair.
Well, okay.
It's like,
there are like quote unquote like objectively correct ansers.
You're like, oh, cool. It's Proteus and Legion at the top. You're like, what?
It's like, yes, my favorites. Yeah.
Rich, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I would say that like if we're talking about personality, which I assume is going to come up, kind of talking about like the 616 versions in the current timeline. So we're not like talking about like it's not like, oh man, this guy was a jerk in Days of Future Past. It's no, it's like what we're seeing like in the like the regular versions.
Because the X-Men show up in so many different things in the video games, in the movies and the cartoons and stuff like that. The way I was thinking about it was I wasn't going to hold like, oh, this character was really bad in this movie. I'm not going to hold that against them. No. I'm kind of just taking, so like, oh, this character was really cool in the movie and really cool in the comic book, and they're different. If that, because that happened for a couple of characters, I think that's cool, and I think that's a bonus. Because even there's alternate versions of people too that are really cool. So I don't know how like set in the 616 I want to get super. Maybe we can specify.
Yeah, we can get into it. I think once we bring up the character, I think that's where the discussion can kind of.
Yeah, I feel like all those like extracurriculars, like the games and the movies and the cartoons and all that, I feel like that's all good like supplemental material. Where we'd be like, they also rock here. They also like so that could boost. It more so than like take away, because it's like, yeah, so and so sucked in the movies. It's like, well, yeah, that movie sucked. So like,
exactly.
And as we discussed, most of them do. So
most of them do, except for 1 or 2 real bangers in there. I would say.
I would argue I watched 2 bangers back to back.
Really?
In the last 2
I bet
days.
I can guess which 2 it was.
100%. Go
Was
ahead.
it First Class Next 2?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. First Class X2.
It was not.
What?
I will get it.
He's a big.
Was it
Origins,
First Class and Days of Future Past?
I actually watched. We will rank this, I swear. But I watched the first 20 minutes of Days of Future Past because that's like my favorite.
Okay, that's the
of
good
that
part,
movie.
yeah.
Like when they're talking about like the original cast, like when the Sentinels drop on them and they're like trying to defend Kitty Pryde while that's all happening. I'm like, this is awesome. And then I skipped the entire movie to get back to the part where, like, I'm not going to say names.
I think that movie starts really strong.
So
and then
strong.
Doesn't really do anything.
That's why I didn't watch
after that.
anymore. I watched a different movie.
Yeah.
You'll know exactly which one. I just can't say it.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
Just like every episode of Ranked, we're going to go around 3 times, nominating 3 nominations each, making a master list of 12 and whittling that down to a top 5 X-Men characters list.
meow, meow,
To
meow.
me, my X-Men. Okay, here we go. My first nomination here. I'm coming out strong. I'm coming out with one of my favorites for sure. So if you ever played the X-Men game for the Sega Genesis,
Hell yeah, buddy.
that game is
The
super
first
fun.
level, at least, is so.
So hard. It is so hard. And also, you can't choose your characters in that game, if I remember
Wait, yeah,
correctly.
you can. Can't you?
No, like the second player, maybe. I think you have to, like, for us, anyways. Maybe we're dumb. I don't know. We were kids.
No,
We had to
I remember
keep
it was very
resetting
complicated.
resetting the game to get the
Okay.
characters that we wanted to play between player 1 and 2. That's how I remember it, anyways.
Okay.
And I kept resetting until I got Cyclops.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Scott Summers. Now, the reason why, like, you know, I think he's a perfect example of getting a bad rap in the movies and stuff. Like, Scott Summers, to me, when I was a kid during the Sega Genesis days, I was like, this character's fucking cool. It's Cyclops. He has his red visor. He'll press the side of it and a optic blast shoots out of it like a laser. It's not a laser, but like a laser. It's like a concussion blast kind of thing. And I thought it was really awesome. And I just like the look of his character and just like the idea of this like optic blast coming out. And then the movies came along and then everyone's just like, and I love James
sucks.
Marsden, but he's such a dink in those movies.
They nerfed him hard.
And
Yeah.
I watched a video essay today about like what they did to Cyclops in those movies and how he had 30 minutes of screen time across 3 movies, which is crazy.
Wow.
Just utterly wasted.
And like how his portrayal in the movies is not at all like his portrayal in the comics, where he doesn't really feel like a leader. In the movies, he always feels like another character second, and he just feels like a push around character that you like don't want to root for at all. But in the comics, I feel like he kind of portrays that level of why I like Captain America so much, this natural born leader and tactician, smart dude. Has a lot of like family drama that happens around him and responsibility that he's just like, he puts the whole weight of mutant kind on his shoulders, unlike any other character, more than some of the
complicated family life isn't exactly uncommon amongst
Yeah.
I mean,
but
I do not want to go to like get into like the Summers family tree. To
Yeah.
family. Like,
yeah, it's pretty messed up, but I just love he's different in Captain America in the way that he does have morals, but he's not like, I guess they would call him the golden child of the X-Men in a way, but his ethics are different than Captain America, who's just more, I don't know, let's just say morally right and wrong. He's just like, I know right and wrong, where Cyclops would do the thing that's right ultimately for mutants, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big distinguish. That's why the X-Men and Avengers
absolutely.
fought at one point, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, there was a whole comic about it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like Cyclops a lot, and they've only made him kind of cooler coming back to X-Men 97 when he like uses his optic blast to like land from like thousands
cool,
of
yeah.
feet in the air. You know, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like Cyclops quite a lot. He's done a lot of cool stuff.
what's your opinion? Okay, so like I think there's 2 like different opinions about how his powers work. Do
Okay.
you like powered by the sun, or his eyes go into a punch dimension?
No punch dimension.
That's what I assumed it
Because
was.
if
I
you
didn't
do
know
the
there was
punch
any
dimension,
sun.
if you do the punch dimension thing, why? Because the Summers brothers with like Alex and Gabriel, their powers don't work on each other. But
Yeah,
if you go with the punch
that's true.
dimension route,
Why wouldn't
that
they?
doesn't really hold up. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't? Because they don't, Havoc's concussive force is different than
Yeah.
Cyclops.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, it's also that was only ever listed in like a 1986 Marvel handbook where they
Yeah.
described his powers.
It's true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just
I don't know.
weird.
I've
to me.
always been-
I have a
I've
more
always been a
important
big-
question.
Yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I've always been a big punch dimension fan because I think that's funny. But yeah,
I have an important question as well. What is your guys' take on the costume? Hair out or rounded dome?
Oh,
Like, do you like the skull cap or do you like the hair out?
I'm a fan, and this might be controversial. I'm a fan of hair out.
yeah, I like hair out.
I am also hair out.
I feel like the hair in with the cap, the best it's looked is
With
his
the-
like
with the-
current Krakoan with the
Oh,
blue
sure.
version of his like X'd out face suit with
Yeah,
the
that's pretty
visor.
dope.
I like that, and I like his kind of astonishing X-Men run.
Yeah.
The Joss Whedon. I like that, like the blue suit with the. I like that look. his X Factor suit, where he has the white stripe down the blue skull cap, is my least favorite of any of his costumes. I hate that. Just get rid of the racing stripe. It doesn't make you go faster.
I also feel like if we have like the head thing on, I just get worried that he's getting really, really hot. It's like you know, he's got
I'm
like the
worried for
visor
him.
on,
Yeah.
and like it's like, where is the heat going? Like, because he also has gloves and boots on. It's like, where's the heat? The
And
heat's
like
going
the
out your
thigh
mouth.
straps. I like the thigh straps in the Jim Lee version. I think that's the Jim Lee version.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. I loved Cyclops in, and I'm gonna bring it up a lot tonight. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, my favorite fighting game.
Yeah.
He's great in that. Great zoner, got the good
That's what I
ultimate.
mean.
He could shoot beams. Great.
Great
Awesome.
game. Great game. Yes.
Great game. Excellent game.
Cyclops. We'll talk more about him afterwards, but we'll go into Angus's first nomination.
God, this is so hard, man. This is so difficult. It's so difficult. Okay. Oh boy. I gotta go with my gut here. I'm gonna nominate. My ranking of my favorite X-Men changes constantly. But in the roulette wheel that is the constant shifting of my favorite spot, this guy pops up a lot, and that's none other than Gambit. Remy
I love
LeBeau.
Gambit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Definitely just like a cool looking character when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, he's got like a trench coat and he throws playing cards and stuff like that. And like on a surface level, fairly cool. But I've read a couple of his standalone stories. He had a standalone run in the early 2000s that was like, fine, it's okay. But like, I feel like one of those characters that hasn't gotten done right in the movies was my absolute favorite character to play in the games. In fact, I remember at a movie theater, one of my local movie theaters had Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I actually beat it one time before a movie. And in my little trio, my 3-person team, I had Gambit, and I can't name the other 2 characters yet. Well, I guess I could. One of them's Venom. He's not coming up today. but Gambit, and just like, I don't know. There's an undeniable style, and there's a lot of people who in the X-Men, their whole thing is they have to like learn to work as a team and stuff like that. And it's funny. A lot of Gambit stuff is like, you've got to like, you know, take shit more seriously. So it's fun. And I always have an affinity for characters who kind of joke around too much and don't take things too seriously, because it's immensely satisfying when they do eventually take things seriously without getting into any, like, you know, great character in the new cartoon right now, great in video games, not so great in movies.
What
and I
movie
don't know how,
was he in? Which one?
He's in
X-Men Origins.
Origins, yeah. He's in the
Oh
first
my
Origins.
God.
And it's like Taylor
yeah.
Kitsch or something like that. Not necessarily a bad choice. I don't know how good Channing Tatum would have been. I know he was trying to get a Gambit movie.
Honestly, we might see it in the coming months.
That's a good
think
point.
so?
Honestly,
Did they say that?
watching, because he
It's
might show up in
heavily
Deadpool. Yeah, he might show up in Deadpool.
Oh, I see.
But I would say even, what's his name from I was watching Dune 2, like Dune Part 2. Austin Butler could probably play Gambit. Is that like way out left field casting? Anyway. Mull it
He'd
over.
have to drop the he's still in his Elvis character.
Voice.
Yeah, still.
But yeah, that's my first nomination. Probably currently my favorite X-Men. But,
I can see why.
That could shift by the end of the episode.
He's very cool.
Thoughts on Gambit?
Yeah, when I was growing up, like watching the cartoon and stuff, he was one of my favorites for sure. Yeah, he's just like straight 90s kid. I'm like, this guy is so cool. Yeah, I like the trench coat, all that stuff. Also, like in I think his first appearance, Chris Claremont created him as well, but like his first appearance, he beat up Wolverine. He was kind of like, he was a late 80s edition, essentially a 90s character, but it was like kind of, it's like, okay, we need kind of a new Wolverine. And like, that's kind of how they introduced him. By the point that like he even beat up Wolverine in his first appearance, and I was like, okay. So I thought he was cool growing up. Like I fell out of love with Gambit as much just because there's not as much depth to him. Like he's been with Rogue. They're Mr. and Mrs. X. They've been together for so long, but he's still fun. He's a little scamp.
Yeah.
Gambit really came in and was just like, oh, he's got like everything going on. Like it's like he's got a mysterious past. He's got like red eyes. He's like Cajun. He's got like, he basically came in as like a really like full character. He has all this stuff with like the assassin's guilds and like he came in like really like hot as a character. He's had all.
He's
this
also
stuff.
like sex in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Oh
100%.
yeah. Oh, I want that. I don't know if you guys have seen X-Men 97, but I want the crop top he wears that just says rock on it with guitars.
I bet you can buy that right now.
I
if you
could.
wanted to.
100% you
I will
can.
make it. Yeah, absolutely.
Angus, before we move on, if you want to just quickly explain the power of Gambit
Oh,
for the
sure.
non-believers out there.
Yeah, what's the best way? So he charges things with kinetic energy.
Yeah.
And he can so generally he's throwing like playing cards, and he can have them explode on impact. He can have them explode after a timer. He gets real creative with how he charges things. So he also fights with a bow staff, and I was learning how to use a bow staff in martial arts when I was a kid. So it's very possible I thought that was kind of cool too.
Wait, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Raphael, but
Okay, just checking.
Donatello
Wow.
is a very close second. It's actually something I wanted to mention earlier. With some fandoms, you'll have like Star Wars, especially the original ones. You'd ask everybody, "Oh, who's your favorite character?" And they'd all be like Han Solo. Like base. It's like there was less of a. It felt like there was less of like a more of a right answer in those things. But then you look at something like Ninja Turtles. Everyone has a different favorite Ninja Turtle. And X-Men, I think it's the same thing too. It's one of the beautiful things about X-Men is that like you could have a bunch of kids on the playground playing X-Men, and like each kid could theoretically play their own character and like have I'm this guy, I'm this person, and just like I don't know. I'm sure there'd be some people fighting over certain characters, but I don't know. I like the beauty of
I'm
like,
the
there's a lot to
clone
choose
of this
from.
person.
Yeah.
Which totally would work.
I'm this person from a different dimension.
We're all Jamie Madrox, the multiple
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah,
Okay, that
I
was
didn't
easy.
know I didn't know his real name. That's funny.
I have one more thing for Angus. Just real quick, could you just do a real quick Cajun accent for us?
Oh sure. Bonjour, mon ami. It's pretty good. It's
good.
not bad,
It's pretty
right?
good. It's
Loved
good.
it. Okay, cool.
Mon cher,
We'll,
chérie.
yeah, we'll revisit this throughout the episode.
Oh, yeah,
when
yeah.
we throw to Angus. Taylor, what do you got?
Oh,
Taylor, what do you got as your first nomination?
All right, my first and my God, there could be no other. I'm going with the beautiful Wind Rider, the Weather Witch, the Goddess of the Storm, the Regent of Soul, Aurora Monroe, Storm, folks.
yes.
I don't think there's a more right answer than that. She is the GOAT. She's powers, no powers. She is the best.
Continue, please. Give me more. Or actually, tell me her powers for those who don't know, and then give me like your favorite Storm stuff that you like about her.
She's so strong and self-assured. She's regal and those aren't her powers. Sorry, her powers. She controls weather. That's her name is Storm. We all know. You know that iconic white outfit with her white hair and her blue eyes. She's one of like the most striking character designs as well. She was literally the most popular like female character in Marvel Comics for decades. When they did the like DC and Marvel amalgam like they matched her up with Wonder Woman. Like she was the one because she's so cool. But yeah, she's like regal, and yet she's very kind and caring to the people that she loves. Like she has a really good relationship with like Colossus. It kind of refers to him as like little brother. She was a mentor to like Kitty. Again, I'm going back to like the mid-70s and 80s Claremont stuff. But she was such a badass. She was born in Harlem, but like her parents were diplomats, I think. They're from Kenya. They died in Egypt. So then she was like raised as a kind of a street urchin, and she was a pickpocket. And when she was there, she learned like living on the streets how to like pick a bunch of locks. And she's really good with like handheld weapons and stuff too. So like all those things outside of her powers. And then like you trace back her lineage, and like her ancestors were witches. So she's also like powerful from her blood like that. But then you take all that stuff out in like the Life Death comic that they're actually touching on in X-Men 97 right now, which is so cool. But whenever Storm got depowered, she led the X-Men when Scott, after Jean died, Dark Phoenix saga. Jean was Aurora's best friend, and she was shook up about it. But Scott ended up leaving the X-Men, and Aurora took over as the leader of the team, and she got depowered. Or actually, Cyclops came back, and he's like, "Okay, I'm back. I want to be the leader." And she's like, "No, you left. I'm the leader." And then she lost her powers. There's the whole thing with the Morlocks, which is amazing. Like when she fights Callisto, and it's like, "No powers. We're just gonna do a knife fight." And Storm's like, "Oh, bitch," and like stabs Callisto because she's like, "Oh, I thought you were all just wind and lightning." And I'm like, "No, I can hold my own, like 10 toes down." But yeah, when she gets depowered and then she comes back to the X-Men, she's still leading them without any powers for years. She was depowered for like, what is it, like 4 years or something in the comics.
Right?
Yeah. And then when Scott comes back again and he's like, "Okay, I want to be the leader," she's like, "No, I will fight you for it." They go in the danger room and they duke it out. He's using his optic blast. She has no powers. She still schools him. She takes off her cape, wraps around his head, like just dummies them in front of the whole team. And it's like that's what's so cool about her. It's like it's not the powers that make her the goddess. It's just like she is that. She embodies. And like when she had that like punk rock makeover and after they went to Japan and she like comes back after a week with Yukiro and she's like all leather clad with like the mohawk, which is also iconic.
The mohawk's
like,
so good.
All of her designs are iconic. Because I'm even
All
thinking
of
of
them.
like the black one piece too, with like the arm cape, loopy
Yeah,
cape
exactly.
thing. All of her looks are iconic. She's
Her
amazing.
original. That's the cape that she wrapped around Cyclops'
That's
head,
right.
the little
Yeah.
goon. Sorry, Tongue, but she schooled Scott without powers. And like like the more recent comics, the Al Ewing stuff in particular, like he with Sword in X-Men Red, he's like she's getting all of her flowers. She's the only character that I can think of in the X-Men that has never died. Like there's a moment in X of Swords where they're doing all these different challenges and she has to like one of them is she's paired up against Death, one of Apocalypse's kids, and they literally it's just a dance. They have to dance together because the challenges are really weird. You think they're all going to be sword fights, but they're not. But Death falls in love with Storm because everybody that gets in Storm's orbit like falls in love with her. But they're having a dance and then like he's like asking for her hand or whatever, and then like to Death she's like, "This is the closest you're ever going to get to me," and like as he like dips her or something, or she dips it. I don't know, but it was just like so like oh my god, she's so cool. And yeah, she's the leader of Araco, like planet Araco. They gave her the throne and then she used her lightning to like melt the throne and she's like, no thrones on my planet where there's no like one above the others. Like we are mutant, we are together, we're stronger as a fist. She's so cool. And like I heard it that like Cyclops, because they're kind of the two main leaders, Cyclops and Storm, but like Cyclops is the one you want to follow into battle, but like Storm is the one you want to lead a people.
Yeah, she's the empathetic leader.
Yeah. Storm always seems to make the X-Men feel like a family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's always calling people like brother and sister, at least especially in the more recent stuff I was reading. She truly is like, oh, we as mutants are all family. But I just like seeing that relationship. And arguably, I like that she's arguably a better leader than Cyclops.
Oh, 100%.
And even though she is like one of the strongest mutants in the comics, she's not like a prick about it.
Yeah.
She's
like
She's Omega.
humble.
She's Omega
Yeah,
level.
exactly.
She knows what she's capable of and yet like remains humble in a way. Like she's like I am that, I'm the one, but like you know she will like she'll hold a door for somebody, you know, she's not above that.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Same thing
The
that
same
happens
thing
to
that happens to everything
else.
else. Bad writing.
It still kind of works. Honestly, I don't know. It's
I was like, yo, it's funny because it's true.
Let's move on to Rich, your first nomination. What do you have?
All right, my first nomination is the Master of Magnetism, Magneto.
Of course. How could you not?
Magneto, he's the fucking coolest. Like he started off as like a villain of the X-Men, even though like, you know, he was trying to champion for mutant rights like the entire time. And just like, you know, so cool, just like you know, he has all that back history with Professor X. And then when Professor X like goes to another planet, he just is like, okay, yeah, I'll take over the academy. I'll teach these kids how to like be the best mutants they possibly can be. I don't know. Magneto is so cool. I've been really enjoying him on like Krakoa, like being like the leader that he is of like the Quiet Council and everything like that. I think that it's so fun that like for like a really long time, like the original X-Men were just kind of like, oh, we like, you know, when he was trying to lead the X-Men for a bit, they were just like, no, like you can't have this guy, and then he just kept doing it because he's so cool. He's just like he's very extremely powerful, has powers over all like
Also Omega level.
Also an Omega level. And I think that it's really cool that he like, speaking of Araco, kind of so Araco, if you don't know, if you're not in the know, in the Marvel universe is the planet that we would call Mars. And he just like decides one day he's gonna get all the Omega level mutants and he's just gonna like take over Mars for mutants. Terraform it and make it into a place that mutants can live on. And I just think Magneto's just like the coolest, like just like such an iconic look with like the helmet and the cape and just like
even the all white looks good too. I think. I love that he's like old and like jacked and like, you know, probably my first instance as a kid of being like, oh, hey, this bad guy's making a lot of really good points. To the point where like I don't even really think of him as a villain necessarily. I just think of him like as an antagonist to our heroes. or allied to,
He
but just
does
like
do some villainous things.
yeah.
Like,
he
definitely
certainly does.
He definitely does stuff to the X-Men where it's just like, oh
Totally.
yeah, that's not cool.
Kills
I'm
a lot
sure
of
that.
people.
Absolutely, but I'm just saying you can sometimes see it from his point of view.
Absolutely.
And in the movies, I
timeline.
would say really, really good, and always like a really good part of the movies. You know,
Yeah,
Ian McKellen,
absolutely.
Michael Fassbender. As bad as those movies get, Magneto never really feels like the reason a movie is bad.
No, Michael.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I just
phenomenal.
watched First Class today. Michael Fassbender is really good as Magneto. He's
So good.
so good. And like, yeah, Ian McKellen, like going back to Days of Future Past, watching him do it, I'm just like, he's also very good at playing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I think it's a really like a powerful character, but like he's just like I think that like when they were writing X-Men like as him as the antagonist, it's like, oh yeah, I can understand like him and Professor X have different ideas of how to do this, and I think that that's really interesting that like because they've known each other for such a long time, and it's just like, oh yeah, we have completely different ideas of how to like go and fight, like how to like bring this up.
We didn't talk about his powers. Was Master of Magnetism specific enough? Do people get it? Like he can control metal?
He can control metal to the point that he can affect the iron in your blood.
Yeah, that's why he's got such longevity, right?
Of getting rid of like mind controlling people.
He's been de-aged and stuff multiple times.
Okay, I was
100%.
curious. Yeah.
Here's something I was talking about this like last week. I always pictured Charles and Eric being so old, especially the movies I feel like didn't help.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't think they were that old. I think one was just bald and one was white-haired. Because in the original 1962, right?
In the original comic, Charles Xavier is supposed to be 28.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, wow.
There you go. He's just bald. And then like even Max or Eric, he went through the concentration camps and stuff. So it was like he would have been around 10, maybe a bit younger when that happened. And then we jump ahead. So it was like he's tops 40. It's like Steve Martin with the white hair.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you cast those two guys in the movie, and then that imprints on all of us retroactively.
But they were the iconic versions of those characters for so long, right?
No, it's true.
But they were never that old. I think they were always only like 10, 15 years older than the first class students, like
that makes
Scott,
sense.
Jean, Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a comic like a bit ago where like they like basically just aged up. Like, they were just like, oh, like what would the X-Men be like if they were like just like the actual age they would be? And so it's like, you have Professor X and you have Magneto, and they're like old men. It's kind of interesting also because like I was reading the first issue of X-Men, like Uncanny X-Men #1, and it's kind of interesting to look at it because Magneto's kind of the reason, a little bit, like, there's racism obviously, but like it's kind of the reason that people started noticing that mutants were a problem.
Oh,
because he like took over a military base and then was writing in the air like, I will take over this base, like, and then wrote his name in cursive in the air, and it's like, because like that's what Magneto does. He's a cool guy. He writes his name in cursive in dust in the air.
He does have
just like
there's a hubris
knock
to him.
over that garbage can.
Yeah, there's a
he does also have a
narcissism
certain
to him, but
panache. He kind of has.
Yeah. And we should move on, but I do like what movie was it where they put him into like a plastic jail or whatever it was?
That was the second.
Isn't that the end of one? Yeah.
Yeah, but when spoilers, he gets out. He gets out, guys.
Spoilers for X2, guys.
He gets out.
Just a heads up.
He gets out.
Magneto always gets
He
out.
finds a way.
Of course.
He finds a way.
Life finds a way.
I
That's
do
right.
love that people keep coming at Magneto with metal guns and like helicopters and shit
they're like,
that.
oh no.
Like, what's happening? How could we have predicted this?
I mean,
oh no.
we say that, and then it's like the X-Men send like Wolverine to go get him, and it's just like, no, stop. Oh man, you guys have read the comic where like Magneto rips all the metal out of Wolverine's bones?
Yeah, then we got that like feral Wolverine with the bandana in the 90s. It's like the bone claws.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
classic.
Let's go to round two. Everyone. Might as well say it at this point. It's Wolverine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Wolverine.
Listen. I know some of you out there, you're like, oh, okay. Top 5 X-Men, of course Wolverine. Of course Wolverine's going to make the list. But like, there's a reason why Wolverine should be on this list. It's not like some other
She's
episode.
great. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Logan. I'm talking about great.
I love Laura Kinney.
I do too. But Logan, there's a certain level of, and this might be because, the writers love Wolverine so much, but they give him so much in the comics. There's so much character exploration for this guy who cannot die, essentially.
Tuong, what are his powers?
Yes, I'm just there you go. He basically can't die.
Oh, so like Mr. Immortal, got it.
He regenerates from like a cell, essentially. He has adamantium claws because he was, he was experimenting.
Could you imagine someone listening to this and not knowing who Wolverine is?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Hugh Jackman, Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
God, so funny.
Man, I'm so excited for us to like do the deep.
Snick Snicked? The famous
yep.
Snick Snicked or Bub? Whenever
Bub
he goes to say Bub. Anyways, one of the movies I watched, one of my favorite X-Men movie, Logan, I watched that last night, and I was just like, yes, this is why I like this character so much. And I especially like that one because they got to actually explore his character in an R-rated movie as opposed to like the Wolverine where they had like limitations on what they can show and do with it. But like in Logan, he's literally just like putting his claws through faces and you're seeing it and it's visceral, it's feral, it's like there's something to it, but also he's old. He's like old man Logan.
Well, that's the thing too, is because it's R-rated, they can have a kind of a greater talk about mortality and watching those around you age and die and dwindle in longevity. Yeah, it's wonderful. This was the character I dressed up
Of
for as
course.
Halloween.
Oh yeah,
What other
obvious,
character?
The best.
You had the claws
Obviously.
earlier.
Wow, the Canadian dresses up as Wolverine.
I must say, as a kid, when I found out he was Canadian, for some reason I was like, that's so cool.
He's one of
'Cause, like,
us.
every other superhero operates out of New York, and it's like, oh, he's cool. But like, my mom, I had the costume I had didn't come with gloves. It was like a cloth mask and like a cloth like one piece thing. But my mom took like those little black like cheap gloves that you'd get from like the dollar store. Or like you lose like 60 of them as you're a kid. But she got those. She wrapped popsicle sticks in tinfoil and sewed them to the gloves, and I loved it. I was like, "Yeah, I've got claws now. It's amazing." And they were like kind of like droopy and stuff like that, but I still loved it.
He's a perfect character for an action figure. He's a perfect character to just
Absolutely.
for the picture for ranked. I literally grabbed 3 chopsticks and put them between my fingers, and I'm Wolverine now. It's fantastic.
The other character in my Marvel vs. Capcom 2 trio.
Yeah.
was
I
Wolverine.
figured it was because like, okay, you've got the mid range, the long range. You need someone close. It's Wolverine.
No, he's just got that
Fun
move where
fact-
he just goes across the whole bottom.
I forget
of
what
the
he
screen.
says, but it's pretty awesome. Yeah. Sorry, Rich.
Fun fact about
Berserker
Wolverine.
Barrage, but
Fun
anyway.
fact about Wolverine, and this will kind of give you, like, if you've never read X-Men comics, this will kind of give you an idea of how crazy X-Men comics are. The first time someone calls him Logan in X-Men comics, it was a leprechaun, and leprechauns are canon in the X-Men universe.
Oh,
That's insane.
God.
His name is Banshee, and he was one of the second
No,
generation.
this is an actual
I'm just kidding.
leprechaun. It was a leprechaun who was from Banshee's house. There was a castle.
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious. There's a lot of good stuff in comics with Wolverine. He's gone through a lot of shit, maybe more than any other character in a way. He has his ups and downs of like, he's what we love so much about him. He's a tough guy. He's a gruff. You want to change him, but you can't change him. But he tries. He tries his best to play along, play ball with the rest of his teammates, and his rivalry with Cyclops. I've always enjoyed. They're like back and
Until
forth.
they started the thruple.
That's
Hell
right.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
right.
I have to ask because I haven't seen it in comics yet. I've only seen it in fan art.
Yeah.
Have they kissed yet in the comics?
Not on panel.
Okay.
But
Okay.
there's a nice moment where they're at the Summers house and
Yes.
they're gonna go to Chandler, some planet for
They're going
like
to
a
the beach,
beach
yeah.
day, and he's like, "Do you want to come to the beach?"
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, "I don't know, it's a family thing," and he's like, "Oh, he's like, Genie in bikini ain't bad." He's like, "Scotty in a speedo," and he's like, "Who'd want to miss that?" And I was like,
Yeah, I loved it. I loved that move. That moment.
That was
They
in
live together in the same
Dawn of X,
house.
right?
It's great.
I read
Yeah,
that
it's
issue
near the
pretty-
end. Yeah. Also, I mean, even like him falling into the sun, I was like, "Fuck, that's metal."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all great. Yeah, no,
"It's actually adamantium."
In the comics, there's this point where they're trying to defeat Orcus, which is like the new anti-mutant group, and they keep sending Wolverine because they can resurrect him. Mutant comics, anyway, they can keep resurrecting him, and basically they eventually just Orcus makes a bunch of Sentinels that are just Wolverine skeleton, just wandering around.
that's
and,
fucking
it's
sick.
an army of
cool.
Wolverine skeletons.
It's like Logan, where X-24 is just a younger version of himself, where he fights himself.
Yeah.
The bad guy's
Honestly, probably should have been a different. Anyway,
Yeah, I
it
agree.
should have been a different character, but I get what you mean.
I get what they were trying to do with it. Anyways, lots to say about Wolverine, but I mean, it's Wolverine.
One question before we move on.
Oh.
Favorite costume?
Thank you.
I like the classic. I like the classic. I like the.
Are you talking about the yellow, the blue?
The blue and yellow.
I'm a tan guy. Tan
You,
and
do
brown.
you like the orange and the brown?
Love.
Oh yeah.
I'm also a
That's good.
yellow man as well.
I simply don't
in
like
more
the
ways
leather.
than one.
I don't like the black. I don't like the black. I don't like them wearing the black.
Like the X-Force stuff, like when he's like,
No, like just like around the time
New
the
X-Men.
movie. Yeah, like around the time the movies were coming
Oh,
out.
like
they
the
were
leather,
let's put
like
them in
kinda
leather and
Morrison,
stuff.
the
It's
Morrison
like,
stuff. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, I see.
I personally, I'm told it's great. I personally don't love the art style for the Morrison run.
I do. I love Quitely. I love his art. And I was
Yeah.
saying this to Tom
Yeah.
like last week when he was reading it. He draws things, and it's like there's like a really ugly
They're, like,
beauty
ugly.
to it.
They're
They're really
ugly, yeah.
ugly.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it really works for X-Men, and I think it
Yeah.
works for his Batman stuff, but I don't think it works for like his Superman stuff, because Superman's like pretty and the All
Supposed to be
American or whatever.
perfect,
Like the
yeah.
other like Batman and X-Men is like y'all are freaks. So
Yeah.
like that kind of like
Dude.
gross works for
Oh yeah, they. I agree with Angus to
Oh.
a degree, but I see your point, Taylor. Because like literally, like Scott Summers will turn his head, and you're like, "What's that
Yeah,
thing
and
like
he's
out of
just
his
like,
neck?"
"Ah."
It's just like a weird bubble. Yeah.
I really
X-Force?
like the X-Force. Yeah, I've got the Rick Remender X-Force
Nice.
omnibus, I guess, and I do really like the black and white with the red eyes. Very cool.
That was cool.
But yeah, probably the classic. Sorry, Tongue. Did we get your favorite?
I like the yellow as well.
Yellow.
blue,
Yeah.
blue and yellow. Yeah.
Blue and yellow. That's
We
or like
almost got the movie version of it. We almost, and then we're gonna get it in Deadpool, but like,
or
I
just
do
him in
hate-
a white tank. You know, just him in a white tank.
I hate it more now in hindsight in that first movie where they make the joke like, well, what would you prefer? Blue and yellow spandex? I didn't
Yes.
mind that joke at the time, but seeing how every single movie, especially every single comic book movie, has to like winkingly know of like, your name's Dr. Octopus? Seriously? Like, I hate that. I
He's
hate
standing
that shit.
right behind me.
Oh my god, thank you. He's right behind me, isn't he? Well, that just happened. Blah. I fucking hate it, and I just wish they
hey
would have
guys.
some. We got company. Yeah.
In English, please.
Yeah,
Yes, I think
they're all
just-
scared to have the costume.
Yeah.
Oh god,
Yeah.
that's why
It
we're-
has to be a
and-
reveal.
and anytime they tease it, we're like, yes, finally, and they're like, no, you guys are fucking with us. If we put it in a movie, you won't go see it. It's fucked. It's fucked. Anyway,
We have to move on. We have to move on.
Yeah,
Angus,
do.
what do you have as your second nomination? We're so far into this podcast. We're not even done the second nomination.
truly, the
But-
last three nominations were all ones that I was desperate. I'm like, if no one nominates
Of
these, I
course.
have to get them
Yes,
on the
of
list.
course.
So you guys have given me the ultimate gift of kind of once again erring on my personal taste of being like, this person's my favorite,
Yeah.
one of my favorite X-Men, rather because I want the list to be good, but I also want to be varied. I love this character. Again, very cool, and so far of all the people nominated, I think provides a very important quality to the X-Men, and this character is none other than the lovable Kurt Wagner, the
Of
Nightcrawler.
course, of course.
I love Kurt. I love Nightcrawler. He's amazing. He's cool. That
Bamf.
opening to X2 is amazing. Bamf teleporting,
Yeah.
very cool. I loved as a kid just the fact that he has to know where he's going. Just having like
Yeah.
a built-in kind of like, stakes, all these things. And once again, a really, really important quality, I think. He doesn't look like a normal person.
Every other character is like human passing so far. that
Yeah,
we've
exactly.
mentioned.
And
Yeah.
I think I've always had an affinity for characters in fighting games. There's a common trope of having like a monster type character. I loved Blanca. I loved some of the more horrific characters in some of the other games like Soul Calibur, all these kinds of things. I do like monstery type characters, and I love Nightcrawler. Looks like a demon, is treated like such, but is like the nicest, sweetest guy most of the time,
And very
I-
religious.
And I'm not a religious guy, but I like that he is.
Me too.
And I
He's-
like that
it grounds
he
He's
him.
doesn't
not
shove it-
even that Catholic. I feel like
No,
they lean
no.
into that sometimes, but like
It's like just the right amount where it's like it's his thing, but he doesn't make it anyone else's problem.
No,
Like I never
it's,
seen him
it's not
trying
like
to-
it's not like Daredevil style where it's like no,
Yeah,
it's-
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, even
Yes,
in
we get
Krakoa,
it. You're-
he makes his
makes a religion,
whole thing
right?
is making a new religion. Yeah,
That's just
Yeah.
the part I was at where he's like, I have to make a religion.
the spark. Yeah.
And even that moment, I love too to, and this is tying back to a moment I mentioned, where they're trying to destroy this Orcus mother mold sentinel maker, and he and Wolverine have this wonderful moment where they're definitely both about to go die, and they have this brief, touching moment about the afterlife and what kind of people get to pass on to the other side and have paradise and bliss and stuff like that. And I don't know, I really, really like that he's like the one guy who's really, really good friends with Wolverine. Wolverine has kind of had a lot of friends over the years and a lot of like love interests and stuff like that. And I really but there's something special about his relationship with Nightcrawler. Yeah. And and so I love Nightcrawler. Enough said. His costume hasn't changed too much. He's
one of the best costumes to ever do it, ever.
Absolutely. And I love the swashbuckler quality he has. I'm always a big fan of acrobats, guys with fantasy characters that fight with two swords was always my jam.
Very agile.
Teleporting, acrobatic, just every single thing, just checked all those. That's why he always flips places with Gambit for me. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, they're just so cool. But I would say Nightcrawler's probably a bit more of a fleshed out character in some regards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I have any of you guys read Uncanny X-Force?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a great moment in that where Nightcrawler kills someone by teleporting inside of them while holding a shark, and it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Now it's not OG Nightcrawler; it's an alternate dimension
it's
Nightcrawler.
Age of Apocalypse, right?
Age of Apocalypse. He's got the red stripe, but still very cool. And anyway, really needs to be done in the movies. And I would cast Bill Skarsgård. That's my pick.
Interesting. They have done it in the movies.
Maybe.
Yeah, but he's got that weird look in his face.
Yeah,
too,
I don't like it in the movies.
I would like one comment that I really like about Nightcrawler was because this is really early on when Nightcrawler was still wearing the image inducer that made him look like a normal guy. And then I think it's Wolverine challenges him to go and walk around a town without it on, and he just has this amazing time being able to be himself. And now he doesn't really wear that anymore. He doesn't wear the image inducer anymore. Now he's just this is who I am.
Mutant proud.
And also, Nightcrawler fucks.
Oh yeah. Oh my 100%, god, guys.
He is so, canonically good at sex. Also, canonically has two penises.
Oh, does he? I did not know that.
Wow.
I know he uses the tail.
Said that he has two.
Wow. I do. Okay, I will say
he uses the tail. Is that what you said?
You better believe it. So
he kills with that tail too.
I had a book when I was a kid. It wasn't a comic book. It was more like the size of like a book, and it was black and white. It was a couple of the issues kind of smashed together, and one of them was, and this is weird, maybe weird. I just remember it being very titillating, where Nightcrawler's on a rooftop or something like that, and he catches a woman who's falling, and he teleports and he lands in a bathtub with her. And I just remember being like, wow, that is so cool. If only I could teleport and land in a bathtub with a woman. Wouldn't that be the best?
Be the best, dude.
So, yeah.
Still would be.
Absolutely.
Still would be. Still trying to figure that one out. As soon as I can figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on
to noting that you can teleport, but you've just never taken a bath. That's the boring part of it.
It's the
scared of
water. I guess the hair growing was a bit of a misdirect. I can teleport.
Taylor, what do you have as your second nomination?
All right, yeah. So I'm going for another Claremont. Go figure. I'm going with the character you might know her as Ariel, maybe Sprite, maybe Shadowcat, or simply Kitty, the Red Queen of the Hellfire Trading Company, Captain Kate Pryde. Kitty Pryde, she is iconic. She was introduced in I think 1980. Mm-hmm. She was the first real kind of POV character. She was a young kid. She was a teenager. She was 15, I think, when she got on the team. 14. Maybe she was younger. I don't know. I forget, but she is just an incredible character. She's also Jewish, like Magneto, who I don't know if we mentioned that about Magneto. They're probably the two most prominent Jewish characters in all of Marvel Comics, if not comics in general.
Maybe The Thing, but yes, totally, yes.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, she's incredible. She was the first, so there's the first class, with Cyclops, Jean, Beast, Iceman, Angel, and then there was the second generation, which was the relaunch in 1975, and that's when they went much more international with the team. That's where we got Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Storm, Banshee, Sunfire, Thunderbird, rest in peace. But then, so after that, their first inductee to the group was Kitty, who was much younger. So it was just a lot of fun just to have that younger character. And it started a trend that they keep doing. It's they introduced Jubilee later on, probably most prominently because of the cartoon. But she was kind of that new age for the late 80s, early 90s. She was the Mall Kid era. They did it again with Armor and Joss Whedon's Astonishing run. They always do that. kind of give Wolverine just a teen girl sidekick.
Yeah.
What's her
And
powers?
she be intangibility, I guess. So she can walk through walls, but she can also use it in like other ways where like she makes these kind of like stepping discs that she can walk on. So she can like, she can't fly, but she can like kind of do it. If she walks through any technology, she disrupts it. She's used that plenty of times to get them out of scrapes. But she's also very, very smart. She's really good. She's like very tech savvy. And yeah, she's very well spoken. She does a lot of speeches and stuff. Oh, Tuong, you just read God Loves Man Kills, right? She gives that. I think it's in that story where they're hounding Nightcrawler, and they're like, kill him, and then her and Peter and Wolverine get in between them, and then she's the one that talks to all the people. She's very eloquent. It's not a power of hers, but she's really good at speaking. But she's like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "That's a human." They're like, "You call that a human?" She's like, "Yeah." And they'd be like, "What do you like?" He's like, "Well, it scares me." She's like, "Well, why? You scare me. Does that give me the right to sock you in the mouth?" And she's like, "What about this guy? Like, maybe I can walk through walls. Maybe this guy can turn into metal. Maybe that guy has claws." But like that does. She's so good. And she's kind of always the in-between. She was there before the New Mutants arrived. And so she's too young to be like on the X-Men mainstay team at the time when she's introduced. But then she's been around for a few years before the New Mutants get introduced. So whenever they join the school, Xavier's Academy, like she's kind of always othered. Yeah. And like it's kind of like with her Judaism as well. She always kind of felt like on the outside of things, and even she's kind of between teams, and it makes sense that her power is also like she can walk between things, and she's that kind of bridge. It's just, I think she's a fantastic character. She's so much fun, and she has a lot of like identity crises, as I mentioned, all those code names that she tried out for so long. She's always trying different costumes, but nothing really stuck. That's why she went by Kitty Pryde for so long. But in the later comics, she becomes captain of the Marauder, which is a vessel that whenever Krakoa comes around, there's a lot of nations that don't recognize Krakoa sovereignty, so they don't let their mutants. Oh, look at that, Marauders!
Yeah, I pulled out my Marauders comic.
So good. And Emma gets the Hellfire Trading Company going, and they're basically importing and exporting, dropping off Krakoan medicine to all these nations that need it. But in Kitty and her crew are going around dropping these off on a ship, but they're also kind of like covertly going in and rescuing mutants from all these nations.
So cool.
And it's so cool. It's such a fun story. And again, like her character, they kind of revert her character a lot of the time. Like a writer gets it, like Joss Whedon, kind of be like, I'm going to make her kind of a high schooler again, but she keeps growing, and then like some writers kind of revert her back to her status quo, but like
it's a Spider-Man way.
Yeah,
totally. But she's done so much. Like she was trapped in a bullet for years.
Yeah,
a giant
bullet. Oh
yeah, there was a giant bullet that was like coming towards the Earth, and Kitty used her intangibility to like phase the bullet through the planet, but then she got trapped in it, and she was just gone in space for a long time.
And then Magneto brought the bullet back, but then she was super intangible for a while.
Yeah, she was like incorporeal and couldn't like hold it together.
Comics are so weird, dude.
They're so weird.
I fucking
and
love
then she was engaged to Star-Lord.
Yeah,
and Colossus, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she almost married Colossus, and then she was like, "Oh, but I'm gonna like phase out when the wedding ring goes on me," and then break up with him because he's like a lot older than she is.
He's a lot older than her, and that's the thing. In like the Claremont thing, she's like 14, he's like 19.
Oh,
and she wants to be with him, and he's just not having
I feel
it.
Like they've had a tragic kind of thing a couple times too, where like one or both of them has died.
Colossus was dead for a while.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah, because he shot himself with the legacy virus.
Yes,
to
that's
get
what
the
it was.
cure. And
oh my god,
Whedon brought him back, which is also weird because he's like Whedon brought him back so then he and Kitty could bang. But I'm like, there was an age discrepancy, which is why they like.
I'm beginning to think there's something weird about this Whedon guy.
Let's keep our eyes on him.
One of my favorite moments with Kitty is always the Professor Xavier is a jerk line, where like he tries to like he's just like, "Oh, you're too young to be an X-Men. We're gonna put you with the New Mutants," and it's like, "No, I don't want to be in the New Mutants. I'm way more like done a lot more than you have. I'm gonna leave. Professor Xavier is a jerk," and then she just like goes off and does her own thing for a while. Goes to university.
Last thing I'll add to Kitty Pryde conversation is that watching the beginning of Days of Future Past, I forgot that Kitty Pryde was such a prominent figure in the original X-Men movies, X1 to 3. And just I didn't even remember that Elliot Page was even played Kitty Pryde back in the day.
Only in The Last Stand.
Was it?
And Days of Future Past.
No,
I think so.
X2.
X2, no?
No, because I feel like Rogue was bigger.
Oh, maybe Rogue.
Rogue was the, and that's the thing again.
Okay,
I'm
mixing
them.
the.
But no, I get what
was
you mean.
Rogue in the movie.
But anyways,
But even
I
in
forgot.
the comics, she's very important for Days of Future Past, right? She's the one that time
she's the
travels,
one that
doesn't
goes
she?
back, which is kind of why that movie
In
is
this,
weird.
well, this movie's
sent
weird
Logan
because
back.
they sent her
sent Wolverine
powers
back
were
because-
different. Or
Yeah.
they're an evolution.
It was supposed to be Rogue. It's
confusing.
It's
Let's
all-
move on. Rich.
Anyway.
What do you got?
Hey. So this one's gonna be like not a deep pull. It's like not like I would say not as popular outside of the comics as she should be. I'm gonna talk about Emma Frost, aka the White Queen.
That's literally what I was going to.
I'm right here with all your picks.
I would have done it.
Okay, so here's the thing: is that I feel like Emma Frost, like I feel like Magneto gets a lot of things about being like an enemy of the X-Men who's really become like kind of a member. Emma Frost went 100%, just like was antagonistic to the X-Men. Kind of lived in Genosha for a while the Genosha massacre happened, and then immediately just like joined the X-Men, has been part of like the X-Men for like a very long time. Like she's been like
in the 90s, she taught Generation X with Banshee.
Yeah. So basically, like she started off as sort of an antagonist of the X-Men by being sort of the anti-Xavier by like starting her own academy, the Massachusetts Academy, where she was teaching her own team called the Hellions, and most of them died.
What are her powers?
Emma Frost is psychic, like Professor X is, but she can also turn herself later on during the Genoshan massacre. How she made it through was she was able to turn herself into organic diamond. She's also like, second mutation. She's also a very prominent member of the Hellfire Club, which was very antagonistic against the X-Men for a very long time. And she's like the White Queen. She like wears very like snazzy,
revealing outfits, perhaps.
Yeah, very revealing outfits. The one thing I love about her is that sometimes, like, so she's from Boston. Sometimes in the comics, when she gets really frustrated, you can just read that like Boston accent coming out a little bit. Like,
I didn't know she was from Boston. That's so funny.
She puts on the whole like transatlantic like
worked on me.
I think that the great thing about Emma Frost is that like it's very hard to tell like what's like, because like she also has had like a lot of plastic surgery because she doesn't want to like look. She doesn't want to just like make you believe that she looks beautiful. She does look beautiful. Like she wants to be that all the time, and I kind of think that like it adds that fact that she can turn herself into a diamond. It's just that kind of like elevation, but she also can just like get dirty with like the X. She can like go and fight dirty with the X-Men, and I think that she is like a really like important member of the team now, especially because, you know, as Xavier has like the dream, she's kind of more there for the children. She's more there to like teach them as the professor, as their teacher, rather than being like it's about the dream. No, it's about these students, about these people that we really need to care about. And that's why I love her.
I was just gonna say, like, at least where I'm reading right now, they're like, we need you to be in charge of all like the business stuff too.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like that part too, where it's just like, look, we're the X-Men and we need to be like above board, but like you should go and do like, you know, the whole like shell game of like trading and corporations and stuff like that.
Because she's like, and I say this lovingly,
does that.
She's a stone cold bitch. Like she can get things done.
She's a girl boss. She's like, she's
100%. Like
she's an ice queen.
She's an ice queen.
Oh,
there you go. There you go.
Shit. Frost.
No,
you think they did that on purpose?
I feel with her, Eric, and Charles all kind of represent like the three pillars of like the schools of thought. Whereas like Charles is like, we need to work with the system and like make it equal for all of us. Eric's like, we need to destroy the system, you know, equality by any means necessary. And then Emma is, the system is broken, but it's always going to be here. So we need to make the system work for us. So she's like all of like capitalist ideas. She's like, we get the money, then we're insulated, then we have the power. So it's kind of an interesting, and she's for the kids, like you said.
Yeah. And I actually almost like, okay, this is going to be like a thing for later. Like, hey, I don't want to say it because like, okay, there's a fourth pillar. I'm going to talk about it later.
Oh, okay.
There's a fourth pillar.
Big Blue?
In this thing. What?
Big Blue?
Talk about later.
No.
Talk about later.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to talk about it later.
I'm excited.
Okay,
How about we move on?
I was just talking about like the summer seats in, you know, the Quiet Council.
Yeah.
It was like the three of.
I don't know who the third pick is yet.
Okay,
I don't know who the red.
Keep going.
I'm gonna move on. Great pick, Rich.
Thank you.
Let's go on to round 3. Wow,
Oh,
lots
shit,
of good,
this is tough.
lots of good discussion so far. Really meaty episode. As you can see, we all love X-Men so much. I was gonna talk about. So I'm glad you took Emma Frost because she was literally my next pick. Because I'm like, she's just
Same.
a freaking badass. I love her so much. But now that you've taken her, I'm gonna go like towards more of the bottom of my list. I have 2 that I really want to say, but I'm gonna say this guy. I think Taylor, you might have maybe started insinuating this character. Maybe you could call him some sort of beast of some sort.
Oh, not him.
No.
I like Beast a lot. I'm a Hank McCoy fan, and I
Love
don't.
him.
I think it sounds like he might be evil now. I'm not sure.
Oh, is he evil now?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Is he evil now?
Shit, I haven't gotten to that part
But
yet.
I don't know that. Like I've
I know
not
there's
read
like
that
Dark
part.
Beast back in the day.
I'm a big fan of the Beast from the video games and
Oh, totally.
specifically the animated show. Just
Yeah.
just a fuck, and like he's okay in some of the movies too, as well.
I think he's great in First Class. I think
Yeah,
he's phenomenal.
Nicholas Hoult.
And then I think they
yeah.
they used him wrong for the rest of
Yeah.
the movies.
Yes,
they used
I'm
him
pretty
wrong.
sure.
I also really liked Kelsey Grammer as the Beast in like
Excellent choice.
The Captain
Yeah.
Marvel, like just like
Oh, the-
cameo or whatever.
The best part of that.
Yeah, for sure.
X-Men Last Stand as well. He was
Yeah.
actually in it.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Fucking love him.
I just
I
like
love
him.
Beast.
I like him. He's just a big. He's a lovable dude, and like I'm reading the Morrison stuff right now too, and he has like
Yeah.
his beast form has evolved even more, so he's looking even more feral.
He's more like feline rather than like apish.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. But there is still a level in this run. There's a level of heart that he still has and carries with him, which is what I really like about him because he is a brute. He can go like Wolverine style, like fuck people up if he wanted to, but he mostly does it for science and to care for everyone else at the school as well. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Beast.
So
I love Beast as well, man. I'm right there with you. Go ahead, Rich.
So I will talk about like Beast,
Current Beast?
evil.
Yeah,
current
I'm
Beast.
curious. Is this-
So basically,
Have you heard of Henry Kissinger?
Oh, that
Beast.
bad. Uh-oh.
yeah,
Oh,
like
boy.
he
God, that's
builds
bad.
he builds a prison in space and abducts a bunch of aliens and people and mutants, and then like is like doing experiments on like
Oh, okay.
surgically doing experiments on them.
Oh,
okay.
okay. This is a bit more Mengele
Yeah.
than
He also genocided that like South American country.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Terra
Verde?
Verde? Bad.
This is all new
so-
Beast. This is all new.
So
like
right
This is
now,
all new Beast.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's like 5 years ago.
so
yeah.
new.
So, but
Yeah,
like
but he's
right
been
now-
around for what,
like
30
what's
years?
happened?
But he's been sliding that way ever
Yeah.
since
Oh, okay.
Dark Beast.
Ah.
But the one thing that happened recently, spoiler alert, I'm going to pause for a second if you don't want to hear this. Skip ahead like 15 seconds or so. So, X-Force gets together and they clone Beast based on like him in like the 80s.
He
So this is-
deleted all of the backups of himself. So the last backup they have is from
The
when he was
80s.
with
Oh,
the
that's
Avengers.
when he was
So
with
it's
the
like
Avengers.
the joyful bouncing blue beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quippy.
Fun Beast.
Fun,
Beast. Good beast.
This is
So
what I
it's
like
yeah.
about Beast.
they're
That's
gonna
my
bring
favorite
him
Beast.
back.
And now you can come back into the podcast and enjoy it. I can't believe I talked about all of that.
Wow.
I like.
Rich just put his shirt back on.
Cool Beast tattoo.
I know.
I like Fun Beast. I mean, like, yeah. So in the Morrison run, he like finds like micro sentinels and stuff like that, and he's like a big reason why they're able to like identify like a threat before it happens, and he's just a good person to have around in times of dire circumstances. And yeah, great. It's great.
There's
guy.
this, there's
like
this really
Beast.
nice moment in a comic with Rogue where like Rogue was talking about how like her powers, because she like her powers are kind of always on. She was kind of talking about how they've never really made like a mutant neutralizer that's kind of comfortable to wear. Because like she'll kind of get headaches whenever she wears them, and Hank's just like, you know why we haven't worked on power dampeners for like mutants? Like, oh my gosh! And then he makes her one that's like a tennis bracelet so that she can wear like all the time, and it's just like a kind of neat, nice like little like Hank moment. It was very cute.
He's sweet. I remember I remember an episode from the cartoon where there's like, everyone's kind of got these special relationships with other people. And there's one where they find like an alien spaceship or something like that. And Beast develops a relationship with this spaceship, but by the end of the episode, it's a spaceship or it's an AI. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, I guess. You know how to get a hold of me. But he develops a relationship with this interface, and it's kind of tropey for like, I'm the smart character and I've fallen in love with a robot. But I do remember it kind of being this moment as a kid being like, oh, wow, how thoughtful. He was even able to find admiration for this machine that he thought was, beautiful in its own way. And I just remember liking that and kind of really being into that. But now it sounds like he's a totally different guy.
Yeah, totally.
I gotta keep reading.
Then the evil one dies, and wait, sorry, I'm sorry, spoiler. Skip ahead 15 seconds. The evil one dies, and now it's back to like the nice beast.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, thank
He
you.
can come back now. I'll put my shirt back on.
I can't remember if he's in any of he's in like the Ultimate Alliance video games or one of those X-Men Academy games, but yeah.
But what's so good about him, and we will move on, is that like he is one of the most outwardly, like most noticeably different mutant, like compared to like other people like a Logan he just looks like a normal dude.
Just a short guy, yeah.
Just a short guy until he puts out his like claws and stuff.
Well, it just like his powers, which we didn't talk about, he's just very like acrobatic. He's got like he's got a opposable thumb on his foot,
got, like,
so he can
He's
he's very strong.
like hands on his feet.
But he's really smart. That's not a mutant power. That's his biggest
just very
asset, that he's
smart.
smart. But also that appearance is not a mutation. That's something that he did to himself as well. Just funny. And I would also argue that Beast is one of the most ashamed to be a mutant, because he was an Avenger for so long.
I thought he got over that.
You know that little X-Men versus Avengers?
Haven't read it, but I heard about it.
Do you want to guess who Beast sides with during that run?
Oh, the Avengers, probably. Yeah. Okay.
But in where I
like it. It's complicated.
Different runs. He goes back and forth, but like right now he's very proud of what he looks like, and I like that for him. Right.
That's kind of what I talked about at the beginning too. Is like
right now is like the worst he's ever been.
But I think that's kind of the beauty of the X-Men. This is what I was talking about a bit at the beginning. Was like, I don't necessarily want this list to be like 5 of the goodest guys ever. You know what I mean? The X-Men contain. I know. But just there is complexity within these characters, and they've all been around so long enough that a bunch of them, including the one I'm going to name soon, have been bad guys and good guys and flip-flop back and forth and all sorts of stuff like that.
They always make the good guys bad guys at some point. Look at Captain America. They did, and then they're like, just kidding, it was this all along. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know how like Reed Richards is so smart that like you can't tell him he's wrong, because he's always like, he's worked it out. He's like, no, I'm always right. That's Beast's issue in like the last decade or so is like everything that he's doing, like the people that he's massacring and torturing and all this stuff, it's for the betterment of mutant kind. And they're all like, dude, you can't do this. This is really wrong. And he's like, I've worked out all the variables. I know this is how we have to do it. So it's like, it's that like
there's in the 97, the new season of the cartoon, he's got this really fun moment that I didn't think about it until afterwards. For a doctor, terrible bedside manner. He outs someone as a clone in front of everyone and isn't like, hey, let's go over here and talk for a second. So I just found out that you're a clone. How do you want to approach this? He's just like, hey, everybody, this person's a clone.
Oh, my stars and garters. We got a clone.
I do like that he's a fucking nerd, though.
Me too. It sounds like he has layers.
It sounds like he's a complicated guy.
Whoa, kill some people? Whatever. Who hasn't? Who hasn't in the X-Men universe? Angus, what do you have as your final nomination?
This is tough. But a lot of my top 5, 4 of my top 5 X-Men have already been named by myself or you guys.
Wow.
That leaves one left.
I hope it's the one that I wanted.
Left.
The other one.
And I think this episode could be a little sweeter. It could use a little sugar. I'm nominating Rogue. I absolutely love Rogue. I mean, my most common kind of interaction with Rogue was through the cartoon. Yeah. So, she's a villain. She steals Captain Marvel's powers. She can fly. And I don't know. I liked...
That's her power, as someone for the people at home.
She steals powers,
yes. By touch.
By touch.
I can't feel anything, though.
I can't feel you. I can't feel you.
No,
Which is so funny because she's the horniest character. Like, she wants to fuck.
Oh,
yeah,
I
but she
would do
can't.
anything for just a little kiss.
Yes. And so it's I don't know, it's a pretty straightforward thing, but like, you can see how her power interacts with her as a character. And she wants this connection with people and wants to touch people without gloves on, and that means a lot of different things. But can't because of her power and it's gonna hurt people and stuff like that. But then also like her kind of more modern suite of powers as well. She's super strong, super durable, and she can fly. So she's this like absolute powerhouse for the team. And I don't know. I always appreciated that because she doesn't seem like your archetypal, oh, this is the powerhouse on our team. It almost kind of there's this way of where she keeps reminding you how useful she is as a member of the team. Oh, the Blackbird blew up. Well, thank God Rogue can fly.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
And
God.
carry all of us.
And carry all of us and can just
And
like
punch a
take on-
sentinel all on
my
her own.
and pick them up and throw them and fly through them and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just love it. And I would be lying if I didn't say I had a crush on her when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Anna Paquin version as well.
No.
no, sorry. No, not really. More of a Famke Jemison kind, whatever Jean Grey's name was. But no, she's phenomenal and she's charming. And I liked, I'm sure there's some kind of connection. I also really liked Gambit. So I liked their connection and their kind of will they, won't they will, they won't, they will, they did, they didn't, these kinds of flip-flopping. I know they've been together for a while now.
They're happily married.
Happily
report. Yeah.
Happily, glad. I want nothing to come between them.
Just have she just had to fuck Magneto first, but then after you get that out of your system, you're good.
Well,
Bro, have you ever been to the Savage Land?
we all want to
Yeah.
fuck Magneto.
Hang out with Kazar? No.
I do. I will say.
Hasn't Gambit fucked at this point?
I messaged friend of the show, Samantha Leggett, about her favorite X-Men because she and I have been talking about the cartoon a lot. And I was like, who are your favorite X-Men? She mentioned Magneto. And we're talking about I was talking about how cool the characters. I'm like, yeah, he's so complicated. And I love that you can kind of see his point of view and stuff like that. And she's like, also, he's very sexy.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Silver
yes,
Fox.
Magneto is sexy. He's very sexy. He's very sexy.
Yeah.
But I like her charm and I like Rogue. Yeah. What do you guys think of Rogue? I feel like her
I love
costume
Rogue.
hasn't changed much either. They kind of nailed it.
In the
She had
Jumpsuit with the leather jacket, like the cropped leather jacket. I feel like that's most
in
of
the
it.
80s, she had the black with the green kind of tank top over top, just a
Right.
bodysuit and.
Oh, and then Goth. We didn't talk too much about
Oh,
alternate
X-Men
versions,
Evolution.
but X-Men Evolution.
Yeah,
the
she's
brilliant
great in
idea
that.
of making her like a Southern Goth girl. That's also that's a.
I think
That's
she had
a
a
big deal for me as a kid.
she had a footprint in pop culture back in the day because it was what people would point at to be like, oh, you're rocking the Rogue right now. Like if
Yeah.
someone had slight white in
Yes.
their hair, people
My
were like,
wife has a gray
Steph-
streak in
Yeah.
her hair.
yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm thinking about dyeing it. And I was like, you don't have to. You look like Rogue. It's awesome.
Same, exact
Yeah,
thing.
see, there you
But we
go.
refer to it as she's going rogue.
Yeah.
That's what we
Nice.
call it.
Yeah.
Yep, I love it.
I one of my favorite times with Rogue. Rogue's so much fun.
She's so fun.
She's
a
so
good
fun.
time gal.
She's fun.
She's a great time gal. I loved her in there was this one comic. I think it was Extreme X-Men, where suddenly she just had all of the powers that she's ever had at the same time, and she was just so powerful. And then she's just I just want to hang out and have a good time. And it's just
Yep.
Rogue's
Rogue's
blast.
awesome. Rogue's awesome.
She was so cool because Angus mentioned it. She started as a villain. She was
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
Mystique and Destiny are her moms. That's
Yeah.
who raised her because she ran
That's
away
right.
from home. They found her, and so she was a baddie. She was a Captain Marvel
Yeah, she is.
antagonist for a long time, and then she absorbed Captain Marvel's powers. But with that, she also
And then
absorbed
also
people's
Captain
memories.
Marvel.
Exactly. So she had
That's
Captain
right.
Marvel, and Carol was a huge Claremont just basically made her an unofficial part of the X-Men in the 80s.
Yeah.
She was hanging around with them all the freaking time. So that's why Rogue went to the Xavier Academy. She knocked on the front door and they're all like, oh shit, Rogue's here. They're all ready to go. And then she's like, I need help. And she goes to Xavier to get him to help her with these two minds in her head. So that's when she kind of she doesn't initially join the team, but she's hanging around and then they go on missions together. She proves her worth and they all like her. But for the longest time, it's all of the people, all of the X-Men, they're we don't fuck with you. You essentially killed Carol, who's one of our best friends. You're a bad guy that we fought routinely. And now you're just here living with us. So again, that soap opera-iness of it all. So
Rogue's,
good.
Rogue's really interesting in having as an X-Men character because it's almost like she should be like she's almost like original comics like villain version. Like it's like she should be like against the X-Men because she's like, oh, I'll absorb all your powers and I'll take them away and I'll be. And she's kind of almost like I guess like in the comics originally it was Mimic who just like would like have all the powers and like would like beat up the X-Men or like Super Skrull where he just like beat up like the Fantastic Four or something like that. It should be like against the X-Men, but then she's like been a really like integral part of the X-Men for so long.
I feel like she's never gone back to villainy. I feel like she's been like she had her brief. She was a villain very briefly, became like a good guy, and has been a good guy since.
Oh wait, just you wait, Angus. She's going beast mode soon. You just.
Oh
you
God! Yeah, look, I do all the war crimes, sugar.
She's a very good leader. I don't know if anyone's ever read like Mike Carey's X-Men Legacy run, but it kind of focuses on Xavier and Rogue.
That's
and
a
Rogue's
wild team she puts together, though.
Oh my God, like Lady Mastermind.
Later Mastermind, Omega Sentinel, like
crazy. It's such a ragtag. It's like this should not work, but it really does. And yeah, she's just like, oh, Rogue can like she's a really good leader, which like she's always there. She's like a stalwart. She's reliable, dependable, there to punch somebody. But it's like, oh, she's actually like she's proven herself. Like she's a fantastic character.
Something we also haven't really touched on too much that I think is another really core strength of the X-Men is the fun ways people synergize their powers and stuff like that.
A circuit. A mutant circuit.
A circuit. Is that like a character or just
no?
like
That's the term for whatever.
Oh, that's what they call it. Okay, cool.
They in one of the infographics they say like the first circuit that we all know canonically is the fastball special where Colossus throws Wolverine. That's the first mutant circuit.
Train in the danger room.
Amazing.
Anyways, Angus,
so I love that she seems to be this great player. I can't think of any particular moments. I mean, oddly, I think of the movie where she steals Wolverine's powers to heal when she gets stabbed by him by accident, and I was like, "Oh, that's really clever." Anna Paquin. I mean, she's not bad in the movie. I just wasn't madly in love with Movie Rogue. The Movie Rogue is kind of a letdown when you've been watching the show for years, and you're like, she's a badass and she doesn't need any help from anybody. And then in the movie, she's like, "Oh no, I need help from everyone.
I can't feel.
I can't do anything." And then it's just like in the comics, in the movie, or in the games, she's just like a fucking powerhouse. But
Anyways,
Rogue.
We must move on. I was just thinking, before we do, I just said we must move on. But before we do, I was just thinking that, like, if I were to tell Laura she has, like, a rock and a rogue right now, because, you know, she has, her grays come in every once in a while, whatever. She would say, oh, you mean the one with the claws? That's what she would say.
She's right behind you. She's right behind you.
She's right behind me, isn't she?
Do you know who Rogue is?
The naked blue one?
The naked blue one. All right, let's move on.
That's her mom.
Taylor.
Her surrogate mom
Taylor.
or her birth mom?
She's Nightcrawler's birth mother, but she's
and she's somebody's
Rogue's
dad
adopted.
too.
Move on.
Taylor.
Nightcrawler. Taylor.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, for my last pick,
right.
gonna keep it strong with our 80s girls that like to get into trouble every now and then. I'm going with Illyana Rasputin, Magic.
Yes.
One of the war captains of Krakoa. She is talk about a powerhouse. Oh my God. Like I feel like in the last 15 years, they've really just been like, any team that you have, stick magic on it. Like if you need to get out of a scrape, she's got the soul sword. She can do magic. She's got the stepping discs. She can teleport, and she's so wry and witty. Like she's so like sarcastic. She's just like, she's kind of not quite a punk, but she's just like, she's a absolutely take no shit from anyone kind of person. But she's also very sweet. She like roomed with Kitty
Punk
for
rock.
a while. Like,
you know, she hangs out in Limbo a lot. So that seems pretty.
She does. Yeah. She got kidnapped to Limbo, a different hell dimension where she was raised there for years.
So she's got kind of a demon thing going on. I don't know magic.
Yeah, she's the
well.
Dark Child. She's really cool. She's the coolest Rasputin.
Like kind of like giant magic sword type of dealio.
That's the soul sword. Yeah.
Obviously, it's the soul sword.
I'm sorry.
Oh, did it kill Gregory Rasputin or whatever his name was? Is that what's the soul sword from?
It's part of it's literally like her soul. Like she pulls it out, and it's like her soul is in her hand. Like, and she fights.
That's pretty dope.
What weapon would your soul materialize as, Angus? What do you think?
A wet towel.
I thought you would be like size, like Raph. But
no. I think Raph is cool. I think size are stupid.
Okay, fair enough. Magic, Taylor.
Yeah, I just think she's a great character. She was like the kid sister to Colossus in the 80s, so she was just young. And then whenever she went to Limbo and came back, then she was aged up. But she's so fun. She's just like, yeah, she's a war captain of Krakoa because she takes absolutely no shit. She is honestly, I think one of the biggest powerhouses. Like she would probably be like top three. Just if you need to get out of a scrape, because like one, she could just teleport you out. She can do a disc big enough to swallow everybody and get you out of there. But she is also someone that would be like, I will get you guys out of here, and I'm gonna stay and like crack my knuckles and like have some fun because like she is about putting in that work. She's tough as nails.
Also was dead for a very long time.
Yes, because of the legacy virus. That's why
Yeah.
Colossus used it on himself to get the antidote because he was grieving from his sister being dead. She's also the one. Kitty had a conversation with Lyanna before her wedding to Peter, and she just like realized she's like, you guys have so many issues, like you're never going to get away from it. And then Kitty's like, yeah. Also, Kitty and Ilyana probably should have been together, not Peter Piotr, but just saying.
Played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Fun fact.
We don't talk about that
from
movie.
New Mutants. I haven't seen it. I've
Oh,
only seen
she's
clips.
in New Mutants?
She's
and they
magic.
made her racist.
She's
Yeah.
magic.
Oh, no.
I've only
Yeah.
seen the clip where, and I'm going to paraphrase, where they're like, you can't go there. It's magic. And then she turns to the camera and she goes, so am I. And then goes through the portal. And I'm like, I don't want
I
to
love
see this
this. I
movie.
love. There's this one part in X of Swords where she's like one of the challenges that she has to do a spelling bee, and like they gave her the word magic, and then she spells it with a K,
Right.
because that's how she spells.
That's
It's
her name,
magic
yeah.
with a K. That's how she spells her name, and I was I love that.
X of
She's
Swords
so
is
good in
silly.
X of Swords. It's great.
When do I
so-
read that? When do I read X of Swords?
After
Okay,
Dawn.
so all right, so
After
here's
Dawn
how it
of
After
works.
Dawn, okay.
Yeah.
No, wait,
So-
Rich, I can tell you're ramping up. Tell me afterwards.
I'll give you my reading
In
list.
fact,
Please.
Rich, tell me what your last nomination is.
Okay, you guys have really put me in a bind. You know that? You guys have really put me into a bind because this is the last one, right?
It's a tough one. A lot of snubs.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's oh my god. Okay, because I feel like this character needs to be on the list.
Ooh.
Oh.
Because I like it's like there's a lot of characters I could pick. But for the purposes of the best X-Men,
Our top 5 X-Men.
I know it's top 5. Jean Grey has to be on the list. Phoenix has to be on the list. I feel
Oh,
like
interesting.
Jean Grey is one of the earliest X-Men, obviously, and also like one of like the people that have like really like brought the plot forward
Yeah.
throughout the entire series is like
Very fair.
like the Phoenix Saga, the Dark Phoenix Saga,
Which they tried twice in movies and failed.
Yeah,
I don't know
doesn't
why
work.
they keep jumping to it right away. I feel like you gotta
Simon
build up to it.
Kinberg.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I feel like Jean Grey is just like one of the best X-Men characters.
What
Like, I
are
think
her
that she-
powers?
Jean Grey is psychic, and she's also telekinetic,
Yeah.
so she can move things with her mind. She is also the primary host of the Phoenix Force, which is like an interdimensional power of just like
Cosmic entity.
Yeah.
cosmic entity of change and life, and she keeps dying and coming back from the dead
Oh, yeah.
many times. She also like
Has she died the most times of any X-Men? Oh no, I guess Wolverine. Well, Wolverine, but not really.
Cyclops
Wolverine
dies
died
quite
a
a bit
lot.
too.
No, I know, but yeah, it's true. That's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
If-
I don't know if she's died the most. Like,
Ooh. Quentin Quire in the X-Force run would give anybody a run for their
yeah,
money.
that's true. Like, I mean, like he dies a lot, but yeah, no, I think that Jean's just great. I think that like I love it when she kind of just misuses her powers in comics. It's just like always just like she's always just like, oh, like
Yeah,
I
that's
couldn't do
Jean.
this. That's Jean, baby. Where she'll just be like, oh, I shouldn't do this, but then she'll just like rip some information from people's minds and like throw people against walls and stuff. It's great.
When they went to Kitty Pryde's house to try and recruit her to the academy, which Emma was trying to get her to go to Boston as well, her dad's like, she's going to go to the Massachusetts Academy with Miss Frost. And then they're talking to it. And then he's like, you know what? She can go to Xavier's Academy. And then Jean's like, thanks. And Scott's like, what just happened? She's like, oh, I just changed his mind, like psychically. Like,
Yeah,
Professor and I do
That's
that all
pretty
the
fucked
time.
up, Gene.
And he's like, what? You guys do that? She's like, yeah.
There's this really funny comic where Storm brings her and Gambit to Cairo to like go and see her old like person who taught her to be a thief and stuff, like kind of like her like Fagin from Charles Dickens. And like there's this super powerful, like, immortal being called Kandra. And it's like Storm's fighting Kandra. Gambit's fighting like this like strong guy. And Jean is fighting a child with a knife. And it's just like, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna throw this guy against the wall. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, Jean's great. Love her as Phoenix. Love her as Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix, where she just like literally just eats a planet. Because like, you know, that's what you do when you're Dark Phoenix. It's great. Jean's great.
If they didn't want to get eaten, they shouldn't have looked like broccoli people.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I will agree Jean moves the plot quite a bit.
Yeah.
I can at least agree that far. But we will discuss more about
We
Jean
will.
and all the rest of the X-Men after this break. We need it. We've talked a lot about X-Men.
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 Let's take a...
Previously on X-Men.
Yeah. Let's take a break. And when we're back, we'll rank top 5 X-Men characters. We'll be back, bubs.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a city full of superheroes? To literally see people fly across the sky? Crap.
What are you up to, Angus?
Oh, hey, Sal. I'm trying to record an ad for the podcast.
Heroes don't do paperwork?
Yeah, that one.
Need any help?
Yeah, actually. I'm just trying to tell people about the show, about how you and I work at a newspaper in Super City, and how we interview various citizens, from the people we call neighbors to the city's greatest heroes. But I'm having trouble wording it.
You could just use that section you recorded and put that in.
Huh. Yeah, I suppose I could. Thanks, Sal.
Don't worry about it. I'm off to the office supplies store. It got hit with a shrink ray, so everything is 50% off. Want to come?
You know what? I kind of do. Oh, for those of you hearing this, if you want to hear more about the thrilling adventures and heroics of Super City, come check out Heroes Don't Do Paperwork on the Podcavern Network. All right, let's go.
Top five.
Here we go. Shall we get back into it, my X-Men?
Bam,
Bam.
Sick. Bamf.
Zark.
Whatever sound Chamber makes.
There we go. There's my Gambit.
Sugar. Chamber just blows his own like jaw.
He blows his
and
own
chest
face
off.
off.
Right?
Yeah.
Go
I
on.
always loved Chambers' design, not gonna lie.
Chamber's
Chamber,
cool,
very
man.
cool name. Not familiar with him. Looked him up. Was like, this guy sounds really cool. But like, I don't know how much he's actually in the comic. But
Well,
He's in
Welcome
Gen X.
Back,
Yeah.
my mutants and humans. Everyone's welcome in the Podcavern. Here we are once again.
Not Sentinels. No Sentinels.
No
in the
Sentinels.
Podcavern.
No
no
Nimrods.
Sentinels allowed.
No Nimrods. Anyways, yeah, we're back talking more X-Men. Listen, it took us a while to get us our list of 12, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of X-Men we did not talk about, unfortunately. But here's the X-Men that we did nominate. We had Cyclops, Gambit, Storm, Magneto, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, Beast, Rogue, Magic, and Jean Grey. And those are our X-Men. It's funny because like
She goes by Kate Tuong. Kate Pride. Thank you.
okay, sorry.
She's grown.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say it's funny because like we talked a lot about Professor X, Charles, kind of, but I knew he was not gonna make this list.
He kind of sucks.
He kind of sucks, and like he's important. I've read a lot of stuff with him now recently with him in it. He kind of sucks, but he needs to be there.
I never think of him as an X-Men. They're his X-Men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
X-Men Legacy, the Rogue and Xavier, that's the only comic I've ever read where it's like, oh, yeah, you never actually like follow him just doing adventures.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is kind of neat.
Even when you do,
He still sucks.
Even when
Yeah.
you do, I'm like, can we get back to the other X-Men? Like when
But
he's
he's
in
necessary.
space, when he's in space with Lalandra or whatever her name
The
is,
Shi'ar, yeah.
Shi'ar. I'm like,
Kinda
yeah,
Shi'ar
let's go
Empire.
back to
Like,
the cool
I don't
X-Men.
care.
That's what I love.
He
Even
can
like,
walk again too. I wasn't clear on that. I thought that was
He
just
can-
Savage
he can-
Land's thing.
He can walk all over the time.
Okay. Was he faking it this whole time? That'd be really funny. If he's
No.
like,
it was
"I
all
was
for a
faking it."
parking pass.
If you want to
I
know,
just like parking.
Like, I think that
Zorn
now it's up to
next
like,
to, like,
9
Costco.
times he's regained his ability to walk.
Zorn
Also,
with an
Mutant
X.
Resurrection exists.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
also for all the timey-wimey scale, the ages of people, it's like just they're brought back in their ideal peak form.
Of course. That makes sense.
Yeah,
And
anyways.
so he like hijacks his brother's body at one point. It's all
No, his sister hijacks his body, and
Oh, I thought
Cassandra
he had a
Nova,
coma brother.
baby.
It's
I
a
meant
whole-
thinking of the movies. Anyway,
not
doesn't
But
matter.
we're talking about these X-Men, not Professor X. Although, again, he's important. I loved Patrick Stewart's portrayal of
Excellent.
Professor X, especially in Logan. In Logan,
I like what's his name
so
too,
good.
young McAvoy. I like
McAvoy's good.
he was a good. He was good.
Good too.
He was fine. Yeah, it's good.
Except for in the trailer where they're like, guess what? In this movie, he's gonna be bald. And I'm like, oh my God.
So silly.
That was how they ended the trailer. I'm like, that's not enough of a tease for us to be like, you're gonna go see this X-Men.
God, that's fucking funny.
Okay.
The thing they think will sell us on a movie. So funny.
This time he's bald.
That's what was missing, right? That's how we'll get your money.
Okay, we got to
right,
star
let's fucking do this.
mutants for further consideration. Angus, star one that isn't one of your own.
Okay, I'm gonna take the easy way out. I'm gonna star Magneto.
Okay. Taylor, star a nomination that isn't one of your own.
Emma.
Okay. Rich, how about yourself?
I'm going to star Nightcrawler.
Bam. I'm going to star Storm. Okay, we have Nightcrawler, Storm, Magneto, and Emma. Now let's open up to the floor a little bit. Is there any others that you think warrant further discussion for the top 5 at all?
I'd really love to talk about Rogue.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rogue.
I think, is it boring? Wolverine has to be talked
I think we could talk about Wolverine.
I think we should talk
fine
about
with starring
Wolverine.
that. Yeah. I don't want to just go
This is
because
a
I could
really
just
good
star
list.
all these names, but like,
Yeah, but we already had a
Nope.
lengthy conversation about all these ones.
I
so-
do want to talk about Cyclops.
Okay.
I like
Let's talk
Cyclops.
about Cyclops.
I just want to test the waters one more time on Gambit. I don't know. I think Tuong might be the only person there with me
Yo,
on that
listen,
one.
Gambit's
I love
fucking
Gambit.
cool. He just doesn't have the same character depth
Do you
that
want
some of
this
these other
to be
characters.
a bunch of losers on the list,
You're
though, or
right.
do you want to have a cool guy on the list?
Wait a minute. We have Emma Frost on the list already.
I don't know if I would describe Emma Frost as cool. I would describe her as capable.
Oh, yeah, well, they're different.
Not
Like,
She's cool as
Gambit's like suave. Like,
Cool as diamonds.
you know what?
The
Gambit
coldest thing.
Gambit would try to hit. He'd be like, "Oh, Emma Frost." He's like, "She's hot. Let me go talk to her."
She's
She'd be
into
like,
me.
Get away from me, you
Yeah.
stinky swamp boy.
Yeah, take a bath. All right, okay. So are we getting our first elimination? Is Gambit
Well,
not making this top 5?
No, I think Beast should be our first elimination.
well,
Yeah.
we
He's
know
a
how this-
horrible,
we know how-
horrible person.
we know how this podcast goes. We don't have to like cut from. We just star the ones we want to talk about, and it's assumed
Okay,
that everyone
fair
else
enough.
is not going to make the list. But
Fair
like,
enough.
I like Beast. I'm going back.
I like Beast as well.
I don't give a shit that he's been evil now, and now there's a
I
nice
think-
version of him.
I haven't read those comics
Yeah,
yet. I just know the good
Me
Beast.
too. Thank you, Angus. I knew you would agree with Beast.
Okay, if we're going classic Beast, I get it. Like
Yeah,
classic
but, like-
Beast is great.
but like, it,
With all these characters,
Listen,
we're picking
listen.
them because they've all had storied histories. at
that's what
this
I
point.
mean. Like, even though we kind of talked about this already. Like, some characters go through an evil period. Jean fucking Grey does. Like, like they all eventually go back to status quo, which is a very thing that happens. Like, comics do that all the time. So yeah, Beast may have been bad for whatever 5 years or whatever, but it sounds like
That's
they brought him.
nothing.
They brought him back to status quo,
Yeah.
and they really only did that to.
if we
for
could
a
even just go
shock
back to like the cartoon and stuff when I was a kid, him and Jubilee, least favorite. I always found him so boring.
Oh, that's
Very
yeah.
boring.
That's fair. That's fair.
But he's
I-
like a cool monster guy. I just
cool
because
monster.
he's a
Upside
monster.
down in a prison cell reading War and Peace. for,
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
Yeah.
That's
He's
okay,
a
wait,
smart
let-
guy.
Okay, going back to the list, I really want to talk about Kitty Pryde.
Okay. All right.
we can talk about Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, like
Are you-
obviously I love Kitty and Magic. I just don't know how familiar y'all are with them. But,
I know
Rich, if you
Magic
wanna-
pretty well. Like Magic's pretty cool. I would say that she was dead for a really long time.
She was, yeah.
And like,
And we should
think
hold that
know
against her.
Kitty-
no. Okay, here's the thing: is that like Magic's a really interesting character. It's just that there's not a lot. Like, there's not a ton of stories with her because she was dead for a very long time. She has,
I
like,
didn't
really
realize Magic
good
was a mutant
stories.
until recently. I
Yeah,
had
really?
seen Magic and stuff. Didn't realize Magic was a mutant until recently.
Well, yeah,
even like
she's a
Krakoa.
teacher at Strange Academy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
like
yeah.
she pops up at all like
'cause,
those
like,
places.
I
But, like,
saw her in the Midnight Suns video game and was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I've seen you around. And then I started reading Hickman X-Men, and she's one of the captains. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool. I didn't even know you were
She
a
gives
mutant.
you an
Like,
extra
oh, you're-
turn in Marvel Snap.
Oh.
That's a.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
she's
Yeah, Marvel
that-
Snap. Yes.
Limbo.
Anyways,
Extra round,
But
yeah.
like I would say the issue with the issue with Magic is just that like she died like pretty early on in like when she was starting to get interesting, and like she's also just like she's had a lot of times where it's just like what's the deal with magic? Like she's evil, but then she doesn't have like that many stories. So I would be like a little bit more like
she's really she died like she got whisked away to limbo and then she came back. But like New Mutants and stuff in the 80s, like she's a mainstay. But then she's gone from like the mid 90s and she's out. I'm cool with getting rid of magic
all right. Here's the ones that are starred. Here are the ones that are starred. Cyclops, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Storm, Kitty Pryde, Magneto, and Emma Frost. That's 8. The ones that aren't starred, Beast, Gambit, Magic, and Jean Grey. I'm okay with letting Jean Grey go.
I am also okay with letting Jean Grey go.
Yeah, I just want her to be nominated.
I get it.
I think it's an honor to be nominated.
I totally get why she's nominated, and I completely agree with you. She's very pivotal of being a main mover of the plot. She really is. Like she's just so important in that way. But I don't know. I always liked Emma more in terms of like the telepathic powers. I'm like, this one's a badass. This one pretends she's good, but she's kind of a bitch too. I don't know.
When I think of the ultra powerful mutants, because it kind of I would obviously lump her in because she's like an omega level, at least in telepathy, maybe not telekinetic, but
exactly.
So I would always put her in there. Like, okay, I'm thinking of her. I'm thinking of Storm. I'm thinking of Magneto, Emma Frost, Rogue, and I just like there's like 4 people I would rather have on the list than her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also not just with Jean, it's like with her and Emma. Emma is a bitch, but she knows it. Jean is a bitch, but she thinks she's nice.
That's what I was trying to say.
Like,
yeah, she thinks Jean like
she's sanctimonious and like that. Everything she's doing is right.
Yeah,
like changing the minds of people.
Exactly.
And I feel like with most telepaths, that is something that just like inherently comes with the territory. Like
Emma owns her like kind of. She owns it all.
Even I feel like a great example is. I think in Gen X or whenever Emma first like awakens from a coma, she goes in Bobby's body, like Iceman, and she wakes up and she thinks the X-Men trapped her. It's a whole thing, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, she gets out and then she's talking to Bobby. She's like, she unlocks new powers that he's never used before. And then she's like, there's something in there. She's like, I'm not going to tell you, but like you can figure it out. Cut to whenever like the all new X-Men, like Jean Grey reads Bobby's mind. She goes, Bobby, you're gay. It's like Emma knew, but she was like, I'm gonna let you figure it out on your own. Like I'm not gonna do that.
Matter.
Jean is like, oh Bobby, you're gay. Aren't you happy I told you? And he's like, what the fuck? Like
just like outing him in front of people too, right? Because there's other people there, right?
Even just like to himself, it's like
Beast didn't out him in that way.
Yeah,
I run the tests. Yes,
I think like Jean's really interesting. And like I think that like she's kind of almost become like this myth because she also dead for a very like was like dead and alive and that kind of stuff. Almost like mythological in the X-Men comics, like sort of like something that like because like it's weird having her there when she's alive sometimes.
Yeah, I get it.
I feel like whenever they make her not Phoenix, she's far less interesting.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay.
I'm a Goblin Queen guy myself.
I was no joke. I'm Maddie Pryor over Jean.
Yeah,
the
like
clone.
Not even
the idea of being like, oh fuck, I'm a clone. Oh my god. So I'm like, oh, that's so much more interesting.
She was like caping with the team for so long, like in her like green jumpsuit. She was kind of like the man in the chair. She was sending them on missions and stuff. She was so cool. And then she like Limbo and Inferno and all that. But
you know how it goes. You know how it goes.
Almost sacrificed one of her children. You know how it goes.
Who amongst us?
I'm gonna read the list one more time. We're gonna do locks. Locks have to be unanimous. If it's not a lock, we just move on from the conversation. We'll return back to it. So here we go. I'll start from bottom up here. Emma Frost, lock or no lock?
Lock?
That's not a lock for me.
Okay.
Wow.
I would have done it, but that's just to say it out there.
I've got like 3 or 4 other locks, so I don't want to just lock the whole list now.
Magneto. That's a fucking lock.
Lock.
Come on.
Lock.
Kate Pryde. There you go, Taylor.
You're
welcome.
Like I don't know. I feel like y'all aren't as familiar.
I know
Rich,
her.
did you want to say something about her?
Kate, about Kate? I think like she's had such a cool evolution because like she was kind of like the new kid for a really long time, and then like she came back. She was a teacher, and she's kind of like risen to like being on the X. Like she's such a cool character, and I don't know if she's a lock though yet.
That's fair.
That's what I mean. She is cool. All these characters are good and cool in their own ways.
Exactly.
This is gonna be hard.
It's just like I know there are other characters that we haven't talked about yet that I'm like, oh, well, they're definitely cool.
Like this,
Totally.
like this. Storm. That's a lock for me. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Nightcrawler. To me, like That's a lock for me too. I love Nightcrawler.
To me, Nightcrawler is also a lock.
Okay,
But because
sounds like not.
I don't know if Gambit's making it in there. I will now be fighting incredibly hard for Nightcrawler because you guys got rid of my boy.
How about
I would go in the lock for Nightcrawler.
Taylor?
I go lock.
I'm just because I'm looking at the list. I'm just like
It's tough.
It's
for
fine.
me, it's
if we overlock, it's not binding because we could do whatever we want with the show. But I want
do whatever
everyone's
we want.
gut reactions, right? Like if you think it's a lock off of, if you did,
I mean, I love. Yeah, I
Let's
I
lock
will
him.
fight for Nightcrawler above somebody else on this.
We
list,
got to
which
get
is
one
crazy.
freak on the team.
Yeah.
too.
Exactly. We do need like somebody who looks
And we
We
outwardly.
can't just have all the
we got
handsome,
rid of
pretty
Beast
people.
for God's sake. Okay, no,
Yeah,
Nightcrawler's
it's,
cooler than Beast. I agree. Rogue.
Lock.
I think, can we just have like a top 7? Like,
No,
Definitely
definitely
It
not.
becomes Rogue. Rogue is probably also a lock
Me
for me.
too.
But I
That's
don't know.
crazy.
Okay, is that another lock then?
Is it? I think
Yeah.
she might be.
Is
for
this
me
our
too.
first 4 loco?
Oh man,
Four
this is
Loco?
tough. Okay, I'm gonna lock it, but obviously, again, audience, we're at 4 locks, but we can change things around. We might have to. Wolverine. Listen,
Honestly, could be another lock for me.
listen. It's a lock for me. I think people are always very avoidant of the obvious answer, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But like, I think if I look back on like an episode, like a top 5 fictional cats episode where we said Garfield's number 1, you know what I mean? Like sometimes the obvious choice is the right choice to be on the list. And I think Wolverine's one of those. Maybe not number 1, but
no, I agree with you. And Wolverine, and I'm also, like I said, I'm coming at this from not just the angle of the comic books, like the cartoons, the video games, the movies. I think the movies used him too much. I don't necessarily
That's the
like
problem,
Wolverine
yeah.
as like a lead character, but he's a great part of an ensemble. So whenever he shows up, and I gotta say, anytime I'm playing a video game, he's like a character who was handmade for a video game. I cannot wait for the Insomniac or whoever's making it Wolverine video game.
Insomniac,
And it's like, I don't know. I feel like every character has some kind of healing factor. And I feel like he's the only character for me that's kind of earned it. Where I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like, but it fucking sucks to be Wolverine. He gets fucking, it's not like he doesn't feel pain. He gets fucking ripped up and mulched and stuff like that. And I don't know. I just think he's like if I was putting together a team of X-Men for a mission, I'm throwing Wolverine in there. You know what I mean?
He feels like
I'm just gonna for Taylor and me. I'm just gonna say this: wasn't X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine really cool? Wasn't that like a really cool comic?
it was fun. It was one of them. It was Lives or Deaths. One of them I enjoyed more than the other one, but I love just
Is
like
this a
seeing
recent
his
one?
old couple of years. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But I love his like seeing his like old Team X stuff with like Maverick and Sabretooth when they're just like basically doing Predator stuff, like the Commandos and Predator.
And he fought the Predator recently.
Yeah.
I read that. That was actually that went hard.
I think that,
yeah.
I also watched Predator last weekend.
Oh hell
oddly
yeah!
enough.
Perfect movie.
I think I'm gonna put Wolverine as a lock for me because sometimes you're just kind of like it's like one of those things where it's like when you have like something you really like too many times and then you're like, oh, I don't like this as much anymore, and then like you wait a little bit and then you like come back to it and you're like, you want to know something? This is really good. It's like that kind of a thing. It's just like you have to like leave.
there was like a Wolverine burnout for a very long time.
Totally.
Obviously.
He feels like Bart Simpson. You know, like in the early 90s, he was just everywhere, and it was
Just
like,
too
okay,
much.
can we like just chill out? Don't do the Bartman for like 5 minutes.
Hugh Jackman
What's interesting
stopped
is,
doing
like-
Wolverine for a long time, and now he's back because a lot of money.
And now he's back, which like I feel like,
Which,
and, like he just
honestly-
did it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Just did it.
If he's
I feel like
for
Logan's pretty good. Just let it go. You know, like
we don't have to
Let
go
somebody
back
else
to,
do
like,
it now?
X-Men Origins Wolverine where he's fighting against dead.
fuck that
Don't
movie
even,
sucks.
don't
God,
even.
that movie sucks.
It's funny, but like to your point with like the obvious thing, we've been playing the Marvel Multiverse RPG, and I've been like DMing sessions with those with friends, and it's funny. I'm like, who do you guys want to play as? And everyone's always like, well, like I want to be Wolverine, but like I'm not going to pick him because obviously I'm going to do Ghost Rider instead, or I'm going to pick. And it's like everyone like doesn't pick Wolverine because it's like, well, obviously that's who we all want to play as, but like even people, I'm like, I know that's your favorite character. They haven't even played as him yet because it's like I don't want to do the obvious pick.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I talk
like,
about
it's a
like
weird
playing on the
lie.
playground as a kid. I'm like, the one character was like, okay, 2 kids are definitely going to fight over who gets to be Wolverine.
Oh,
But
yeah.
It's like who gets to be the Green Power Ranger?
Oh, salute.
I mean, Tommy was made from pure evil energy, and that's what makes him the coolest Ranger.
Yeah.
Top 5 Power Rangers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
The White Ranger, the Green Ranger, the Red
other
Zeo
White
Ranger.
Are we talking about Power Rangers Turbo? Are we talking about Space?
The
Are we talking
brown
about
Power
Dino
Ranger
Force?
from the Pirate War.
The Black Dino Force. I've just mentioned 4 Tommy.
Wow.
Okay.
Who else we got?
Well, is Wolverine a lock, quote unquote?
I bet
Yeah.
Wolverine's a lot.
I think he is.
Okay. And then Cyclops, which now feels tough to even make it against the rest
Can
of this
I-
list here. I love Cyclops, by the way.
I love Cyclops as well. I don't.
Yeah.
He's not my favorite, but he serves a very important role.
Very important role.
to all my I love Wolverine, and I love Wolverine's relationship with Cyclops.
Yeah.
Even Gambit, also kind of, he doesn't really take. I guess I like Cyclops because he's kind of like a wiener.
Yeah,
sometimes,
he's a bit
and
of a
we're all
wiener,
just
for
like,
sure.
I'm not gonna listen to you. Oh, shit's really bad. Okay, Cyclops, what do we
He's
do?
kind of Charles's perfect student in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
he strays, but that's
He's kind of the exemplary version of Xavier's dream.
yes.
Like, he's kind of like the
Jean
one
is the other half of that, which is why there's
Yeah.
such a power couple.
That
to him.
being said, in terms of Boy Scout characters, I'll take him over Captain America any fucking day of the
100%.
week. Any fucking day of the week. I know you
Not
love
in the
Captain
movies.
America, Tongue.
Not in the movies.
Well,
he hasn't been in the
honestly,
MCU
nah, that's
yet.
true.
X-Men 97 versus the entire MCU. It's like, I'm going with Scott.
oh,
Yeah.
in a fight?
Also, let's talk about some casting here. They got to get Glenn Powell to be the guy from Top Gun who looks just like Cyclops.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. He
We
looks
don't,
just like
we don't
fucking
need
Cyclops.
James Marsden's back.
We don't need James-
We
No,
need a
James-
tall, his nickname is Slim. He needs to be
It's
tall
true.
and like.
Yeah. The thing,
Okay, the guy
Cyclops
who
is
does all the monster makeup for Guillermo
Austin
del Toro.
Butler. It's Austin Butler again. No, Timothy
Yeah.
Chalamet.
Timothy
Oh my
Chalamet. Timothy Oliphant.
With
Timothy Oliphant would be fun.
I was I was watching a thing today talking about how Cyclops is he is the exemplary student of Charles Xavier, but he's also the perfect kind of he is the in between of Xavier and Magneto, because he is also, Magneto likes to get his hands dirty, and so does Scott. Xavier never does. Xavier's not on the ground floor ever doing the stuff. I mean, that's not what he would do anyways, because he has mind powers, but Scott would be a very antsy guy, not actually leading the mission, being there, putting himself in danger, because that's what he's asking of the other mutants as well.
To that point, in the Claremont run, he and Madeline moved to Alaska when he quit the team, and they had their kid, and then he got a little antsy. He's like, I think I should probably go
And
lead the X-Men.
abandon his wife and child.
Yeah, and then he comes back. He's like, "Honey, I'm home," and it's
I love it.
"Sorry, what's Limbo? Where'd you go?"
In X-Men 97, he's like, I will not be like my father and abandon my child, and then literally leaves the room with his kid. And he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
I will say, everyone's like, Scott's a bad dad. There is a thing where Scott and Jean travel to the future and raise Nathan for years with
For a
the
bit,
Ascani
yeah.
tribe and stuff. So it's he did put in work. It's also
And then the other Nate gets cloned from him.
Oh,
And it's just
God, don't
warp,
X-Men.
Too much.
X-Men.
Conquest? No, what's his name? Warpath or whatever? Yeah, not Warpath.
no, it's
That's something
X-Men.
else.
Nate Gray.
X-Men. Oh, it is.
Nate Gray.
There's
X-Men,
Nathan
okay.
Summers as
Also
Cable.
Nathan Gray. He's
And
also
Nate
Yeah,
Gray
but
is
Apocalypse
X-Men.
has him as he's all decked out in metal, and he's a bad guy
Strife.
for a bit. Strife, thank
That's
you.
Strife. He's a
Oh,
clone of Cable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus
Yeah.
Nathan Summers, yeah.
Christ.
We're not
Tom, are you
getting
keeping
into-
up?
I am
We're not
keeping up.
getting
Our
into
audience
the Summers
isn't.
family. We're not getting into the
What I
Summers
do
family.
think is
I'm a
interesting
big
is
Vulcan
Cable
guy.
actually becomes a really good surrogate father to Hope.
Oh, yeah.
He kind
Yeah,
of broke
Hope
that
Summers, yeah.
family cycle of
Yeah, he's a good dad.
bad dads, and I was like, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah,
Okay.
I like Cyclops a lot, but I understand why he wouldn't be locked.
Okay.
I'm just a big fan.
We've got 5 locks here.
Okay, we've
got
Wolverine,
3
Nightcrawler,
stars.
Rogue, Storm, Magneto. 3 stars, yes. Cyclops, Emma Frost, and Kitty Pryde.
Kate Pride.
Kate Pride.
So, okay, that's a lot to talk about. Does that mean we are axing Beast, Magic, and Gambit?
Yeah, I think they're out of
Yeah.
the
Okay.
conversation at this point for sure.
Okay, so long, Mon Ami, and Beast, and also Magic.
Yeah. Now, it really becomes the conversation, would we take any of these characters out for a Cyclops, a Kate, or an Emma? And the answer to me, I don't know, and I don't think so, is where I'm at with that.
So the only character of those 3 that I kind of want to bring in, it's tough. For me,
Emma
it
for
would
me.
I would be
Emma for
maybe
me.
Emma. I'm leaning a bit more towards Cyclops just because, but then even like we've already got like Storm in there. And I know it's a weird comparison to make, but like, oh, they're both leaders. And I like Storm maybe a bit more than Cyclops. I don't, yeah, it's tough. I don't know who I'd take out though. I think Storm, Magneto, and Wolverine are kind of verging on obvious choice territory. And I think Nightcrawler and Rogue are just fun choices to have in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure. And
but I don't know.
I think I like. I was gonna say I think I like Cyclops a little bit more than Rogue, a little bit. But Rogue's obviously way more powerful, and she does a lot.
Honestly,
of cool shit,
I'm just like I don't see a top 5 with Cyclops and Wolverine. They're just like
I know
Yeah,
the obvious choice. They're both the obvious choice.
It's
And
like,
I'm
okay,
I
you
feel
think
like
so?
they're
Mushroom
getting
Kingdom
points
character.
because they're obvious.
Oh,
Are
they not?
maybe.
Like,
Well,
do we want to take out Wolverine?
Oh, interesting.
I
I
would swap
don't-
Scotty for Logan.
Yeah, I'd rather go Scotty than Logan.
Really?
So
that's interesting.
even though I'm the one who said Cyclops, I still
Didn't you
suck
also
for
say Wolverine?
I did, but like I'm a.
I was between Nightcrawler and Wolverine personally.
I'm
but-
I get you.
Wolverine's just too cool in my mind to like not have him on
So-
an X-Men characters list.
I like how long Wolverine's been alive. I like how as a storytelling mechanic, they can always just be like, here's this decade that he forgot about in like the 1920s, and here's what he's doing in the 1920s, you know?
Or in the Krakoan age, or like, you know, in Powers of X, House of X and all that stuff. It's like, now it's the year so much later than what we saw like 2 pages ago, and Wolverine's still kicking it, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Here's the thing. We mentioned how like the movies oversaturated us with Logan, and we're all just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
My only thing is it's not just the movies, it's the video games, it's the cartoons, and it's the comics more than anywhere. Logan's had the most solos. He pops up in oh look, new Avengers team, Logan's there. Midnight Suns, Logan's there. It's just like it's like you say, it's like he has so many, like he's done so much, but like to the point where it's like he's done a lot of just like they shove it down our throats, and it's kind of like how long before your gag reflex kicks in.
I think also there's part of it of like he's a character who can be on a bunch of different teams. You know, I think part of his adaptability in terms of the kinds of stories you can tell with him. I don't know. I would.
But are they the kinds of stories they tell with him? Because like I agree with was it you or Tuong mentioned it earlier? It's like I think Logan works best. Honestly, how they're doing him in X-Men 97 in the background. He's a great support
as a character in the team. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Totally. But like he's usually front and center. And that's like to me where it's like I was like, oh cool, he pops into every comic and like now we're top 5 list too. It's like Jesus. The devil works hard, but Logan's PR guy works harder.
Of course. something we haven't talked about at all though is this is a visual medium, and Wolverine, whether you like it or not, is an iconic character. Through like how many pivotal like X-Men panels can you picture in your head that involve Wolverine? You know, his skeleton being obliterated, the Days of Future Past cover. Even I'm reading the series that picked up right after Claremont, and it's got this huge spread at the beginning, and just Cyclops and Wolverine are big in this big panel, and so is Magneto, and it's just like I don't know. I get it. We have seen him a lot, but I don't know. If we're picking and choosing the stories we like, there's a lot of really good stuff with Wolverine in it. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yo, when Wolverine
really,
kills like, I mean, Old Man Logan was one of my first, like maybe it's like a boring choice at this point, but like that was the first time I was just like, oh man, like comics can be like pretty fucking violent and like
shit, this is actually good.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I read that one. I like it.
And then like when he like uses Captain America's shield to like fucking like just obliterate Red Skull wearing a Captain America's suit, I was like, this is so fucking metal. I loved it.
But did you know they've done like 3 Old Man Logan runs?
But
like,
I've not
one of them is like over 60 issues. Like,
oh wow,
it's
really?
Like they inundate. Like that's the thing. It's like you read that one good one, and it's like, but they keep going.
I always think of this one issue of Exiles where basically like, which is like sort of like this multi-dimensional X-Men thing, and there's this one issue where like it's just a team of Wolverine, and they're fighting against teams of Wolverine, and it's just like there's so much Wolverine, and like and like
literally
it's like,
ongoing right now is Weapons of X-Men. Yeah, and it's like a Jean Grey, multiversal Jean Grey assembled a multiverse team of Wolverines to go fight Onslaught, and I'm like,
I don't think we need to put the burden of the problems with capitalism on Wolverine.
That's
like
what I'm
literally,
saying too.
it's a thing. He's a good character that made a bunch of money and was successful, and because of that, he's going to get run into the ground. I get it though. You're right. Like we do see a lot of him, but like I don't know. I just don't. I don't know if I want like. So if you were going to take Wolverine off this list, Taylor, who would you put on instead of Wolverine?
Nightcrawler.
Emma Frost?
Nightcrawler's already on it, though.
Nightcrawler's already on the list. So if you took
he's
Wolverine-
a hard lock, and Emma's not.
I think we locked him. Yeah,
We did.
We did.
We did lock.
That's
Emma,
okay.
Sorry, we did lock Nightcrawler. I mean,
Do you want to unlock Nightcrawler?
I mean, I would put Emma above Nightcrawler even, and I would put Nightcrawler above Wolverine. So that's kind of where I'm at. So maybe I'm out of the loop
I'd
a little
agree
bit.
to that.
I just like what I like about Nightcrawler is he's kind of like the heart and soul of the team. But
I was
so what do we? Sorry, what do we have right
We-
now? We've got Nightcrawler, Storm, Magneto.
Rogue and Wolverine. Magneto's like untouchable, right? Like we're not gonna.
Magneto's untouchable.
Magneto and
Storm,
And
Magneto
Storm,
and
I would say
Storm
those are the two were
untouchables.
Yeah, and I don't even necessarily know if either of them is one for me. It's just more like that they need to be on the list.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the movement in my mind is like I don't know. Rogue? I would take Emma over Rogue.
Okay.
I would too, personally.
Yeah.
I really like Nightcrawler. I would like to.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight hard for Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler's my boy at this
Bamf,
point. He's my last one.
Bamf.
Bam.
Yeah.
What else
Okay.
is-
Okay, so you guys are unlocking Rogue. Then it sounds like.
Well,
Rogue is no longer.
if
Well,
you guys are down with that, I mean, we can have a
I
discussion.
mean,
if-
I would personally still like her on the list. I think she's a lot better. I like her more than Emma Frost or
Okay.
Cyclops, but
and I'm still.
Cyclops is gone, right?
Cyclops is still in the conversation.
He's on the cusp, but like I would say, like for me, like I guess I
It's
would.
not sounding good for him.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good for our boy Scott Summers.
He's about to get Marston.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would still fight for Wolverine despite all their discussions and, discussion about capitalism and all that stuff. I just think weird to not have.
I think that we can make an argument for Emma Frost over Rogue, just because I feel like they haven't done anything super interesting with Rogue for a bit now. She's kind of just been like,
Since she got married to Gambit, they've kind of.
Or
now they're just like,
I
they're
don't
just
know how much of
married.
a recency bias is happening here, though, in terms of like how much you guys are looking at the comics in terms of right now, even though the comics have been going since the 60s. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, she wasn't introduced till Claremont's run.
Right, of course, which is what, that's like 78, 79?
It started in 75, but I don't know
Yeah.
when Rogue came in. But no, like, I fucking love Rogue.
I do.
Yeah. What's everyone's favorite era? Can we get into that right now? Or maybe we could talk about that later. But,
boy.
mine's the Outback. So I just bring that up because like the Outback era is my favorite.
Yeah, Outback
era
there
of
is
X-Men.
great.
So it's like Storm, Logan, Rogue, Havoc,
Yeah.
Dazzler, Psylocke, Longshot, Colossus. Like
Yeah.
really weird team. They're operating out of Australia. Everybody thinks they're dead. I love
think my
Rogue.
favorite's
She's
like
so
the
much
90s
fun.
era. Like so my X-Men, when I think of the X-Men in my head, I do
Yeah.
think of the animated series, but
Yeah,
it's basically
me
that
too.
team. It's like Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Rogue, Gambit,
Yeah.
Beast, Storm,
The Jim Lee.
Storm, the Jim Lee. I love that art style. I think like all the characters' costumes and designs are like perfect in my mind. They're like iconic, they're memorable. A bunch of them didn't change after that, And I just think Jim Lee's obviously like, hot take. Jim Lee's a fucking great artist, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. This guy's going places.
He's pretty
Keep your
good.
eye on this kid.
So I don't know. So that's why I think of that. And sure, if a character isn't served very well recently,
Emma was literally in a coma from like 1990 to 94. So I'm like, well, that makes sense. Why you're like, well, she's not even on my
exactly.
radar. It's
Yeah.
like, no,
No,
she was
no.
asleep in their basement.
Well, and then and she showed up in the movies a couple times too, and I feel like
She's in
I
First
get
Class?
that she's cool, but she's just like she's not used well.
No.
No,
You
she's
know,
used horribly. January Jones is
Terrible choice.
not.
And she's
oh,
dead in
to the
Days of
task.
Future Past.
Yeah, they kill her
yeah.
off screen and stuff like that. They kill a bunch of people off screen.
yeah.
It sucks.
I'm not gonna fight too hard for Emma over Rogue. Like I like both. I would take either of them if I had a choice. It
Yeah.
would be Emma, but
You do
I-
have a choice.
I know, but like I'm just saying, we can argue forever, right? We can argue
Sure,
forever
sure,
about
sure,
this.
sure.
Like I'm not so passionate that I would like
Yeah.
stop my feet and be like, we need Emma on this list.
What are some of your like favorite Rogue moments?
God,
That's the
I'm
thing. I have like
It's like, I'm thinking-
so many Emma moments that are like just
Yeah,
And I'm
I-
thinking
I-
of using Rogue in the video games and stuff like that's like
Yeah, I'm thinking
that's
about
how
the video
thinking
games, and then I'm thinking about the cartoon and stuff like that. Because like I'm not just thinking about like story beats too. I'm thinking about like the way the character is portrayed. You know, like the
Anna Paquin.
like God, Jesus Christ. Like the personality and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I just like the choices so much more, and the character's design and stuff like that. Like I like that she's like bright and colorful. I like that she's got gray in her hair. I like that she's got this inner conflict of like, oh, I want to be close to
That's
people,
true.
but I
That's
can't.
good.
And then it's just like, Emma Frost, a woman who's mean and good at business and gets the things she wants and is very cool and gets the job done.
She
and
changed
stuff like
sides.
But
That's a
she
big
also has like the biggest heart of like
Yeah.
Eric
I mean-
Charles and her.
That. Oh,
Like-
sure, yeah, of those three, sure. I don't know. I admittedly I haven't been exposed to her as much as the other characters, and that is probably.
I mean,
why.
she's always exposing her shit.
Okay. All right.
Always.
So, okay. So, as like a comic guy, as
Mhm.
well as like the animated, let's keep Rogue instead of Emma Frost. I think I think that this is just like gonna like she's already there. She's already there. Like she's already part of the team. Let's just we're good.
Okay.
Okay, what's
Well, I'm convinced. Okay, whatever.
She's already there. I don't know.
Not the most convincing.
Has Rogue ever killed a horse called Butterbean to trick one of her students? I don't think so, but Emma did that. She's
Oh, good.
amazing.
She killed a horse.
Emma's
Yeah.
personality is like the funniest drag queen you've ever seen. She's
Yeah.
incredible.
And she has like her kids, well, her students
The
that look like
Hellions.
her.
The Hellions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
the
no,
separate cuckoos. They're
yeah.
her daughters.
Their daughters,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, they
As it
are her
turns
daughters.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think she's a fantastic character. And she's
So
one of the few that has the double mutation, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool
two
too.
different. Yeah.
That's kinda
Real,
cool. Kind
real
of
Todoroki-esque.
unrelated to each other, but
Yeah.
anyways.
Okay, so wait.
Have you seen in X-Men versus Avengers or whatever it's called, whenever Emma is like talking shit to, I think, Hawkeye?
I read that so
No, I
long
haven't.
ago. I don't remember. You trying to pull it up?
Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's
who's so who's on the list right now? Like who's
Okay, let me refresh the memory of the audience. And I think this is what we're going to go with for the sake of time. Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Storm, Magneto. I can sleep well with that team.
I think that's a great top five, Tim, in my opinion.
Me too.
Um,
I mean, would I want to see Cyclops? For sure. Do I want to see Emma? Of course. Gambit would have been cool too, honestly. I would have been.
Yeah.
Like if
No,
I saw.
I get that.
Yeah.
Man, X-Men are cool.
X-Men are
man.
cool.
That's
You know what else is cool is that like there are so many lists out there that we have done on ranked where it is like a struggle in a way, not because of us, just because of how media is to get a good female character on the list. And here we have a
sure. Yeah,
bunch, like a
Yeah.
bunch
Yeah.
who are all fucking badasses, and I think that's just something cool that X-Men do really well.
Absolutely. Four guys talking about.
yeah.
No, but I get what you mean, and that's why when I thought of this, I was like, okay, Storm and Rogue felt like right answers to me. Now, my three favorite X-Men are Gambit, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine, because I used to play them all the time in the Sega Genesis games. Every video game, I would play those three. Those were my three favorites, and I liked them from the cartoon. But just shy of those, Storm and Rogue, and I'm glad that they can potentially be on this list. I'm glad that we all
Well,
love Storm.
sounds like they are.
'cause she's a badass.
Yeah.
So okay. Last thing, the other suggestion was removing Wolverine to add Emma Frost. Does that feel right to me? That doesn't feel right to me, but I just want to float that idea one more time in case anyone can really fight for that.
It doesn't feel right to me.
Okay.
I can see.
Okay. Yeah.
I just doesn't feel right to me. I feel like the list
I
would be
agree.
off. The team would be not like now I'm viewing them as a team. Like here are the X-Men and they're gonna go off on a mission right now, and I'm like, you
This
need
would
a,
be a badass.
need a
team.
Wolverine. Wolverine's
the
just
only
got
thing you are missing a telepath, but other than that,
yeah, but we got Magneto.
okay.
So-
Yeah, we got Magneto.
and his,
For the
his
helmet.
magnetic personality, charisma bullshit.
Yeah.
Is that still canon that he can like charm people?
Probably.
If he wears that Trial of Magneto outfit where his nipples are exposed,
Fuck.
then yes.
Oh yeah.
All right, before
Also,
we
he looks like a drag queen, and I mean that
Yeah.
as a positive with the long gloves and the big M on his chest in the cartoon
Yeah.
right now. I was like, oh, he looks like he's like part way through putting the costume on. It's
Have
great.
you watched episode 6 yet? He does a death
Yeah.
drop and it's epic.
Taylor, what did you find the thing that you needed to find or couldn't find?
Yeah, it's just whenever Emma's like confronting Tony and she's like, where were you when Genosha burned? Where were the Avengers when Genosha burned? Like, where were...
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I have the panel
I'm
here.
a human, and I'd still root for the X-Men.
Where were
I'm
the
like, fuck
Avengers
them,
when
they are-
Genosha died, Iron Man? Where were you when our babies were burning? And then she like takes him psychically like to Genosha on that day, and it's just like she's just so
she's
she
awesome.
doesn't take shit from anyone.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
fact that she can stand next to like Charles and Eric and be like, shut up, boys. Like, this is how we're
I
going to
want
do it.
3
and they
seats on
listen.
the Quiet Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah.
She's cool.
True.
But anyways, we have our 5. Let's go from 5 to 1.
Oh,
Sorry,
fuck, we still have to-
Cyclops.
Oh, Jesus.
What is number 5?
Is Wolverine number 5?
Is Wolverine
Yes.
number 5? I won't fight for him.
I'm fine with that.
I won't fight for him anymore because I just want him to be on the list.
Let's
Yeah.
put, because there was some debating going on with these characters. Does that mean Wolverine 5, Rogue 4? Or is
Yes.
Wait,
Wolverine
who's
4?
is Nightcrawler still on this list?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, he is, buddy. Sneaking in there.
Okay.
teleported in here. I don't think he's snuck in there. I think he's.
I still think Emma should be on this list. I'm just saying.
We already closed that door, Taylor.
Well, hey,
Well, guess what? She turned to diamonds and punched it open. I would put Emma over Nightcrawler. If Wolverine and Nightcrawler, that just feels, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're not the same though. Like they're not even. I don't think like they're friends, but like I don't put them in the same boat in that way. I guess.
I like both those
I-
guys. I don't have any problem with both them being on the list.
I think that Wolverine is kind of like the Swiss Army knife of like you can kind of put him in anywhere. And
I'm talking about Nightcrawler, though.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
but I'm
Nightcrawler was an
I'm saying that
Excalibur for, like-
I think Nightcrawler. I think Nightcrawler has so much personality.
Yeah.
Like
that's-
Nightcrawler has so much personality and just like he lightens the team whenever he's on it. Like it's sort of like it's
Yeah, he's the heart, and he's got
Those
an
are your
iconic.
arguments for Rogue, though.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I wouldn't say
So now
Rogue,
that's double
Rogue
light
isn't necessarily the heart of the team. Rogue is like an
No,
incredibly.
I think she'd be the heart of the team, and Kurt would be the soul of the team. Which,
yeah,
like,
that's what I would say. Is that
Well,
he's like the soul of
and
the
that's
team.
what
I
differentiates
suppose.
them, I guess.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm also, but I am looking at this like in terms of like visual, like it's a visual medium, and there's style that, like I know we're talking about this over a podcast. We're not bringing up pictures of these characters when we should. Or when we're talking about them, we probably should. But like Nightcrawler is like an undeniable. You look at this character, and he's clearly a mutant. And he's clearly, I think he's a very like iconic look to the character. Maybe even more so, not to shit on Emma Frost, than like a blonde woman who dresses exclusively in white. You know what I mean? Like I think when I think of these characters, like they all have a very clear visual, like even Rogue and Storm and Magneto, like when I think of them, there's a very clear image that's conjured in my head. And that's something the comic books do that obviously like a written book doesn't necessarily do. You've got to kind of supply that on your own side. I don't know how strongly we should weigh that kind of stuff, but I know I'm a very visual person and I love the designs of these characters.
I agree.
Anyway.
I like his acrobatics. I like his swashbuckling
Yeah,
stuff.
he's cool.
He's cool. He's cool. And yeah, he fucking teleports Wolverine and literally kills himself for the good of Krakoa, even though they bring people back and that
they
whole
come
thing.
right back.
It's ridiculous.
You guys are really mired in what's happening right now in X-Men and aren't thinking about. He's another Claremont guy. You're a big.
He
Claremont
totally
guy.
is, but it's
Yeah.
just like I'm a huge
And
Claremont
the
guy.
origin,
but
the mob and stuff like that, and
totally, Mystique yeets him off of a
yeah,
cliff.
she throws him in the river. Yeah, she's like, it wasn't me. Yeah,
I think
Totally.
for the sake of time and all that other stuff, we should probably just say I would keep Nightcrawler. Just, yeah.
Nightcrawler 3 seems crazy to me. I'd put Rogue above
well,
him.
we're still at 5.
Okay.
We're still at 5.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
five is
you'd put
Wolverine.
Rogue at 3 then?
Well,
Yeah.
is 5 Wolverine? That's what I'm asking.
I was
I'm fine with
Okay.
Wolverine being 5.
5 Wolverine.
I think Nightcrawler at 3 is a great spot for him, but I understand that that's not everyone's cup of tea. What do you guys feel about Nightcrawler in terms of the 3 spot? I'd put Nightcrawler higher, but that's like he's my boy. Literally.
I would
He's my
also
boy.
probably put him at 3, but that's me.
I would agree. I'd agree with 3. I'd agree
Okay.
with 3. I think that. Yeah.
Okay.
So what is that? Rogue 4?
Rogue is 4. Nightcrawler is 3.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then it leaves us with the
And
two.
then it leaves us with these two.
The two.
Wow. Shit, man. That's actually tough. I don't know.
This
who
is
I'd
actually
put.
really hard here. I know.
Here's an argument that I would love to make. Magneto's been there from the beginning, and he is one of like not only like a really iconic member of like the mutants, is like one of the, also again an iconic version of a villain in Marvel, and has grown past that. I think Magneto number 1.
All right, let's hear Angus's. What are you thinking here? I just want to hear everyone's points.
I don't know. I could be swayed either way, really. Like I think Magneto at number 1 makes sense to me, but like I also would be fine with Storm number 1. Like truly, like I think it's.
All right.
I don't know.
Let's go to Taylor. I already know what you're going to say, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it. What do you think, Taylor?
What am I gonna say?
Yeah, what do you
It's Storm. Storm is number one.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned Magneto's been here since the beginning. Magneto wasn't good until Claremont got his hands on him. He was just very one-dimensional. He's nuclear bombs. I love Magneto. He's one of my favorite characters. Magnets. What if I flipped them? Now they.
What if I lived in an asteroid or an island or a different island or
Exactly.
Yes. No.
No, I think he's absolutely incredible, but just Storm has been consistent throughout, just like from her induction. I just think like
just so
she
damn
is
cool.
the X-Men. Magneto, you know, like even in the 80s when he came in, he was the headmaster of the school. He wasn't in the X-Men. He was the headmaster. He was teaching the New Mutants. He didn't join the X-Men until the 2000s. But like he's my number two. Absolutely. He's my second favorite character. He's my favorite villain of all time.
For sure.
Wow.
I did air quotes with villain. I just think he's so compelling.
All time?
Yeah, that's
I think it's
Hitler?
that like you know what? Couldn't get through his book.
That's
Bad
weird.
writer, so no.
Bad writer, worse painter, and that's all I know about the guy.
Apparently, he used to walk around with a riding crop.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So little.
Yeah. Is that surprising? No, that surprises no one.
Little
Not a guy.
weirdo, cowboy boots and a riding crop.
Lederhosen wearing wiener.
Okay. I think so. Go ahead.
I'm
Taylor.
okay with Storm number one.
The fact that even like Magneto bends his knee to Storm.
I do like that he's just like, hey, I like that even in 97, he's just like, hey, one god to another.
Yeah.
He fully is like,
he calls her goddess. Yeah.
And
I
he's
also
right.
I also love him in the recent when he died on Araco. And it was him and Storm. Like that was such a good scene. It's him and Storm's like holding him as he's dying, and it's such a good scene. He's like, look out for Charles.
And Storm,
keep an eye on Charles. He didn't say look out for Charles, and she didn't. And look what he just did in this week's issue. Oh my God, Charles.
Okay.
That guy.
I will. My final thoughts is I was going to fight for Storm as well. I really like Magneto. I actually think he's one of the coolest, fucking most iconic villains ever, in a way. That helmet, that cape, his powers just oozes with cool. And he's such a good guy to have on your team. But I always, you want him to also be a little bit evil too, because that's the interest that gets you. But Storm, I don't know. I don't think she gets her flowers enough, to be honest. And I think we have an opportunity here to do that because, in the movies, she does okay, but not enough. Like, whatever.
Not really.
Not, you know what
honestly,
I mean?
like taking an X-Men movie and centering Storm would be fucking awesome.
Yeah. Especially it would be so smart.
If you did like one movie too, where you're like, okay, fine, we'll do like a traditional X-Men story. Cyclops is in charge, whatever. Stuff goes good, stuff goes bad, doesn't matter. But having like a very solid like second beat to this whatever long-term story you're telling with these movies, having like a really strong performer be Storm would be just fucking next level. Yeah. Like everyone, it would be the fucking best.
Yeah, like a Storm gets to be number one, Magneto gets to be number two.
Okay, we have it. Number 5, Wolverine. Number 4, Rogue. Number 3, Nightcrawler. Number 2, Magneto. And number 1, Storm. I think that's a great list.
I'm into it. It works for me. Yeah. I would hang out with these 5.
Yeah. And
they wouldn't hang out with you.
No, they'd be
Storm
like,
would. Storm
like,
would.
No, you guys, my hair grows. My hair grows. And they'd be like, okay, buddy.
Go ahead,
One of
Taylor.
my favorite issues, sorry, just from like, I think, it's not Noteback era, but it's after they come back from Secret Wars and Peter breaks up with Kitty. Logan and Kurt take Peter to a bar and because they're just like, they're mad at him. They're like, look what you did to this girl. Like you suck, man. And then Juggernaut's there. And then they instigate a fight with Juggernaut, who just beats the shit out of Colossus. And Kurt and Logan just sit in the bar and watch. And they're like, this is because they're like, we're not going to beat him up. But they're like, oh, we're going to take care of this.
Let's do honorable mentions for the X-Men here. Now, I know this could be long-winded too, but I do think we should just say the name of the X-Men. And if it's very kind of out there, you could do a really quick sentence of who they are. But we'll go Angus, just rapid fire some X-Men or the rest of your list.
The rest of my list: Cable, Mystique, Angel, Psylocke, Apocalypse, Omega Red. I always thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, Omega Red's cool.
Sabretooth, iconic. And I never really looked. Is Deadpool technically a mutant?
No,
right? I know he's been on the X-Men,
but yeah,
like,
he's
kind of a
always
joke.
hanging around.
He's
he
on-
keeps sneaking onto
yeah.
Krakoa.
The first comic I ever really got into and read start to finish was Cable and Deadpool. The whatever that run was, and I loved it.
Fabian
and
Nicieza.
Thank you, Fabians. And I loved Cable in it, and Cable it like made me think he was kind of
gonna be my other nomination. That was who else I was
He's
thinking.
pretty solid.
But
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
Beast instead.
We didn't get one time traveler on the list.
I
And
know.
there's a bunch of them. Bishop.
Fabian's doing a Cable mini right now,
Oh,
and
is
it's
he?
Cable and Teen Cable because he always like does the buddy
Ooh.
cop thing.
Yes, that's fun. I like Teen Cable now too. Yeah, anyway,
He's good. It wasn't great. Got great.
Yeah.
Taylor,
Just saw him recently.
do you want to rapid fire any X-Men mutants that you have?
Sure. It's worth noting my next picks after Magic were Nightcrawler and Rogue. So just
Ooh.
saying. I just love Emma. So Mirage, Danny Moonstar.
Mm-hmm.
She's an incredible leader. Love New Mutants. Wolverine. Apparently they made a guy version of Laura Kinney's character. Psylocke, specifically Betsy Braddock with like the purple hair. Dazzler, Alison Blair. Manifold,
Allison
Eden Fessy. He's the coolest teleporter. He's so badass. Cannonball, Sunspot, and Monet, M and Penance. She's cool as hell.
Yes.
Cool.
I just saw her for the first time the other day. She's dope.
In
Powers Vex or House of X. Which,
she was on that raid on the York station.
and I was like, who's this lady? And then she transforms. I was like, that's cool as fuck.
She's in Generation X. She's one of the students that Banshee and Emma Frost teach in the 90s.
Okay, so good to know.
Rich.
Along with Jubilee and Sync.
Sync is cool.
Yeah.
Sync is
Sync,
cool.
Sync. And Chamber. Boom.
Oh, fuck, I didn't mention Darwin. All right, go
I actually
ahead.
have Darwin on my list.
Nice.
So I have
Darwin's
Darwin.
cool.
I have Elixir.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love
Elixir's
his
cool.
design. Always
Elixir's
loved
cool. Hellion is also very, very cool. I have Boom Boom because I love Boom Boom. Boom Boom's great. And the person I was going to talk about who is the fourth
that. Tabitha. She's
pillar?
trashy. She's fun.
Yeah.
She's real fun.
The fourth pillar that I was going to talk about is Callisto. Who
Oh,
is
hell yeah.
like as like the
Oh, I don't
leader
know.
of the Morlocks of like we need
Oh,
to protect
Callisto.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Eye
of
patch.
course. Yes.
Cool.
She's very cool.
Yeah.
And like sort of the fourth pillar in the idea of like how to like it's like sort of like let's protect like those that are like, you know, the people that aren't like the most beautiful.
Yeah,
or
they're
the
all
most
the,
powerful.
the people that can't pass for human.
Leech,
Yeah.
etc.
yeah.
Caliban.
Okay, let's.
Caliban, oh god, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Toad, probably. I can't remember his design.
He
My
hangs out with Magneto.
final ones. What hasn't been said? I like Colossus. I like Bishop a lot.
Yeah, Bishop's cool.
Bishop's cool. Forge is pretty cool.
Forge
Forge
is
is
super cool.
And I like Iceman too.
Oh, yeah, we
I'm
didn't
an
talk about Iceman.
Yeah, Iceman fan. All right, that's our X-Men, everyone. Oh my goodness,
long one.
That's a long one. But
Apocalypse.
I did.
Yeah, Angus said Apocalypse. So
Yes,
yeah.
a blood
you did?
apocalypse.
Yeah.
He's
My
great. I love him particularly right now in the
And the Oscar Isaac
Poe
one.
stuff.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, true love. Just the perfect casting choice.
I've never
God
seen it.
damn it.
I've never
It's
seen
so bad, dude.
It's really funny because I'm reading X Factor right now and like the original X Factor, and at this point like he was like Apocalypse was just kind of still like kind of goofy. It's like kind of like that the Thanos helicopter kind of goofy where he'll just like
Yeah.
he'll just
Its
like
name
show
is
up in
shit.
someone's room and be like, oh, I'm Apocalypse.
We're at the end of our episode, but before we go, we'll have plugs. If you have a plug, share them. And if you want to share one X-Men run that you're excited to read or that you have read, do so now. Angus, what do you got?
I do a podcast on the Podcaster Network called Heroes Don't Do Paperwork, which, if you listen carefully, I imagine we'll get into some X-Men type hijinks soon because I've been inspired. But it's an improvised interview show where we talk to people with superpowers. It's all made up, of course, though. And my recommendation would be the one I'm holding right here, and that's the Rick Remender Uncanny X-Force run. Very solid. Basically, what if Charles Xavier and the X-Men needed a hit squad to do real dirty work? And it's like Archangel, Psylocke, Wolverine, Deadpool, Phantom X. It's solid.
Spain.
Amazing.
Wolfsbane, yeah. I think she gets in there at the end,
man.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty solid. That one, they've done a bunch of X-Force, but that's the one that I've read and really enjoyed.
Apparently,
It's an
Mace-
easy jumping on point too. Like you
Okay.
don't need.
Cool.
And it's pretty self-contained, too. By the end, it kind of wraps up, and you're like, okay, cool.
I've learned today that Macy Williams' character, Arya Stark, for those of you who don't know, played Wolfsbane in New Mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, still pass. But anyways,
I'll pass.
Taylor, anything going on in life? And if not, throw some runs that you want people to read in X-Men.
Oh, geez. Yeah. New X-Men, Grant Morrison's is a great jumping on point.
That's what I'm reading right now.
Nice. I don't love it, but Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men is a very easy, like he kind of resets everything to the status quo. So like if you're kind of casual, you can hop in there. For people who are a little more in the trenches, Mike Carey's X-Men Legacy, I'm telling you, check that out. Especially if you like Rogue, she gets to do a lot in that. Other than that, I mean, Claremont stuff is untouchable, but it's also like he wrote for 16 years, so it's a little harder to get in there. But if you like the soap opera-ness of it, that's the coup de grace.
Amazing. Rich, what do you got?
Yeah, I am now part of a new improvised theater group in Ottawa called Wayward Improvised Theater.
Cool.
We're creating some new like stuff in Ottawa. Going to be starting with a thing in September, which we're having some people from Austin, Texas, called Parallelogram coming to Ottawa, and they're going to be performing. That's going to be September 6th to the 7th. It's going to be so amazing. You should come and check it out. And check out waywardimprov.com for more information about that. Some comics that I love is I really love, there's a few different ones, but I'm going to go with, if you really want to like just kind of like get into like some cool comics, right around the Morlock Massacre to Fall of the Mutants, that's a really good time like in X-Men comics. I also really like Sins of Sinister. It's a really cool like more recent plot line, which has been very, very fun. And if you want something that's fun and easy and doesn't matter, I really enjoy Exiles. It's sort of like an extra dimensional team that go of X-Men who go around and try to like solve breaks in time in other dimensions. And there's a lot of like cool characters and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing, amazing. For myself, you can find the rest of the shows in the Pod Cavern at www.podcavern.com. Check out all the shows in here. Like, subscribe, review, share it around. For books, yeah, I've been reading so much X-Men over the week. That's all my brain is full of right now. And funny enough, even though we've had a very long podcast, I kind of want to read more X-Men.
Do it.
Yeah.
I read like House and Powers of X, a lot of Dawn of X. I read X of Swords. I've read the Morrison stuff, or at least like a good, 20 issues of that. I've watched Logan. I've watched First Class. I watched, like, there's just so much. God Loves
Man Kills.
Man Kills. Awesome book too. House of M. I never actually ended up reading that before.
House of M's
and then I
great.
read it. It was awesome. Yeah.
I didn't care for the decimation though.
I didn't read that part. No, I just read the main. And then what else? I'll plug Taylor's favorite villains book, probably. What's it called? Mein Kampf. Probably.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was going to say Hellion.
Yeah, who's your guy? Your guy.
Your guy.
That guy used to get around with back in...
I kid. If you didn't get that, I kid. He's against what the X-Men believe. Anyways, that's it for today's episode. If anyone wants to help me get this giant Cerebro off my head, that would be
Yeah, I didn't
great.
want to mention it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to touch
do
that.
that.
Can you see through that thing?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
It's been weird touching everyone's minds. So
Okay, I'm gonna
It's
touch
wild
it. Oh
that
no!
you can like use the podcast equipment through that.
Oh, Angus, are you in here too?
All my hair fell out when I touched it. I lost my mutant power. Or that might just be radiation.
That's probably what it is. Okay, bye everyone.
Bummer.
Bye.